Chapter 221 Invasion. Asking Carter to protect Tenryu and Odahime who were on the boat, Enel spread his wings and flew towards the palace. At the beginning of the ice wheel, the moonlight-like water poured quietly on the white circular dome, and the shadows interlaced between the white stone walls. Huge stone pillars support the palace. Around the palace, there are 4 stone towers guarding it. Connected with the reflection in the water, it is like a fairyland on earth. Outside the palace is as tranquil as water and mist, like an empty castle. You can hear the sound of the sea flowing. Walking in, only through the gap in the curtains, I can see the light inside. The 4 guards at the door had fallen asleep leaning against the stone pillar. This is the back door of the palace, you can only pass by boat. Enel flew over. When he stepped on the stone steps and walked up, if guarding, one of them suddenly opened his eyes. Just when Enel was about to start, he moved his butt to make himself more comfortable on the ground. Then go to sleep. Enel ignored him, pushed open the door and walked in. He thought that he had entered from the front in an open and fair manner. But I always feel that something is not right. Why is this door so small? It doesn't feel airy enough. It is somewhat inconsistent with the pattern of the entire palace. Enel crossed the corridor and came to a garden. He walked along the cobblestone path and saw a swing hanging between 2 trees. What's going on here? Why so many swings? Enel has seen it 3 times. He continued to walk forward, and another swing appeared in front of him. A little familiar. He is lost. Sure enough, it's easier to walk in a straight line. The index finger of the right hand is stretched forward. Huh. A black sphere condensed at his fingertips. Then it turned into a black beam and blasted away. Dragon breath flash. Boom. A huge explosion sounded. A mix of domineering attacks reduces everything standing in your way to ashes. Looking at the newly opened avenue in front of him, Enel nodded with satisfaction. Enel had already overlooked the layout of the central Highland buildings when he flew in. It doesn't fit the structure he wants. Make up your mind to tear down and rebuild all. As for the opposition from the people here, who cares about them? Kill all those who do not agree, and kill all those who oppose it. It's that simple. Pirates are his job. In the future, he will also use merchants as his first side job, and the king can only be regarded as his part-time job. The throne is not required, but the trade in the dark world is absolutely necessary. Okay, pirates first, merchants, then kings. How do you feel as if you are carrying on the fine traditions of the Lefauwater family? The loud explosion also alarmed the guards of the palace. What sound? From the garden. There are assassins, protect the king. Enel felt the movements of the palace guards with a sense of sight. A group of people rushed in his direction neatly, and another group of people rushed in the other direction. Enel's perception is life force. Like a radar display. He can't eavesdrop on other people's conversations by seeing and seeing. But so uniform, needless to say, it must be a bodyguard. The one who came in his direction was to check the situation, and the other team was definitely to protect the important people. Enel followed. In the banquet hall, singing and dancing were peaceful, which formed a sharp contrast with the simple natural scenery outside. The sound of songs and laughter covered up the explosion made by Enel. The dancers twisted their graceful waists, their dresses undulating, and they were eye-catching like wildflowers. The smell of perfume is mixed with the smell of food. What's the matter? Gathered here are the upper-class people on the island, basically nobles. Looking at the soldier in armor who suddenly broke in, he was a little panicked. Dauber, what happened? Said a pot-bellied middle-aged man wearing a crown and a gorgeous red dress. My lord, someone invaded the palace. I was worried about your safety, so I brought someone here immediately. Oh, someone invaded. Is it a pirate? Quickly kill them for me. Bartholomew said. He has confidence in his soldiers. They are the elites carefully selected from this martial country, and ordinary little thieves can settle them in 3 or 2 times. It's not clear who it is. Uzi has already taken people to search. Bartholomew stood up from his seat and raised his glass to everyone in the hall. Don't worry, it's just a few thieves. The soldiers have already gone to catch us. Don't let this spoil our interest. The dance party go on. The rest of the crowd also raised their glasses to him, and took a sip of wine. Wow, thanks to the leadership of Lord King, we can continue to live like this. A woman with braids and a long white dress took the arm of a man. Compared to the previous two idiots, Lord Bartholomew is really too wise. Listening to others' compliments to him, Bartholomew smiled. Beside him, a blonde woman sat, with light green eyes staring ahead, as if she was staring at something, and seemed to be just in a daze. She didn't wear a gorgeous skirt, and the clothes on her body didn't have too many decorations. She was red and white, simple and concise, which was out of tune with the surrounding glitz. Compared with the nobles who sang and danced, the aura of the armored dauber was closer to hers. His Royal Highness Grace, may I have the honor to invite you to dance together? A handsome man in a suit with a bow on his chest and glasses bowed slightly to her. The response he got was not a slender hand, but a cold snort. Go away, the smell makes me sick. After a boring discussion, he wisely backed away. It wasn't until he turned around that his face darkened. Being rejected made him feel bad. Cursing fiercely in my heart, to a dead stinky woman. Grace, my good daughter, it's not good for you to be so rude. It's not the style of a princess. You have to learn to communicate with people. My throne needs the support of nobles. Bartholomew said. It's just a bunch of trash. The taste of this country has changed. Instead of the clarity and naturalness of the past, it is full of filth and decay. Grace said coldly. Isn't fighting hard for enjoyment? You must know that people pursue power and money for enjoyment. As long as all of them are united by my side, then my position will be unbreakable. Bartholomew also knew that the character of this daughter is not at all angry. It's suffocating here, I'm going out to get some air. Grace picked up the long sword next to his seat and walked towards the door. Chapter 222 Give Me Back the Crown. Grace is the daughter of Bartholomew, the Princess of Verslow. She has seen with her own eyes how Verslow has changed over the past 2 decades. Bartholomew was originally the chancellor appointed by Wenris. He used economic means to collapse the kingdom's finances, and then directed all the anger of the people to Wenris. Instead, he expelled Wenris as the savior of the kingdom and the defender of the interests of the people, and ascended the throne of the king. Wenris, who only wanted to run around to make money, didn't have much hatred. This heartless guy doesn't want to be a king for a long time. If you want the crown, I will give it to you. Then took yacht to the North Sea. Bartholomew was an ambitious guy who bought weapons, built up fleets, disguised as pirates, robbed passing ships, attacked the rest of the country, and brought a lot of income to Verslow. Then he used the looted money to vigorously develop the business, and bribed government officials to make the world government recognize his throne and join the alliance of the world government. Under his rule, the whole of Verslow's style became very bizarre. As if the middle was twisted, the two ends were completely different. The king's army became as savage as pirates, but disciplined. The Central Highlands became a gathering place for nobles and merchants. Here, feasting are intriguing, and people indulge in carnivals amid the glitz and noise. However, the coastal highlands and the sea woods in the island still maintain their simplicity and nature. People trust each other and are friendly and harmonious. But one thing has not changed, that is, everyone trusts the king. They all believe that he would lead them to a better life. That's the truth. Bartholomew did a good job, at least much better than Darcy and Wenris. All of Verslow became richer. Commerce led to the development of the economy and brought a lot of wealth to the kingdom. But money is also unknowingly corroding people's will. The nobles had more money and more indulgence. And Bartholomew also immersed himself in his exploits and became addicted to enjoyment. Just last month, Grace had another mother, younger than herself. Counting carefully, this is already the 25th. Standing on the balcony, she looked up at the sky. The moon and stars were thin. Pulling out the long sword, Senleng's cold light looked particularly desolate. She has been fond of swordsmanship since she was a child, and studied with Dauber, and now she has achieved some achievements. What is the future of the kingdom? She didn't know, and she was powerless to change it. All she could do was clench the sword in her hand. Is that sword in your hand a toy? A wicked voice came from above. Who? Grace turned her head sharply and looked at the roof to the side, where a teenager was sitting on top of the circular dome. She put the sword in front of her and was on guard. Cold sweat dripped from her forehead, yet she hadn't noticed that she was approached so close by others. She clearly knew that if this person attacked just now, she would be seriously injured if she didn't die. She is a princess after all, she has no experience in life and death fighting at all, and her perception of danger is not high. Enel originally wanted to push the palace horizontally, but considering that he is not the material to run the country, he changed his mind. He can destroy a country alone, but he cannot rule a country alone. Let Carter and Roy help. Just kidding. Retaining a certain number of managers is a must. Just as I was about to do it, I sensed a high-quality life form coming out. The moment she saw Grace, Enel was slightly surprised by her appearance. He's not gay, nor is he a wanton monk or a power-hungry idiot. He's just an ordinary person, and it's normal that he can't help but take a few more glances when he sees beautiful women. Enel thought she had found herself, but saw that she was actually holding a sword in a daze in the moonlight. Did my stealth level improve? Enel's assassin heart was alive again. There is a chance to try again in the future, but it is still the most important thing to do right now. Enel glanced aside at her slender body, and then reminded him that he was also there. He didn't know her identity, and he knew that her quality of life was higher than that of ordinary people, ranking third in the whole of Vers Rouge. It should be a role like the captain of the guard, so Enel planned to guard her. Are you the one who invaded the palace? Grace was a little strange. She thought that the person who broke into the palace was either a vicious-looking pirate or a thief with snarky eyes. Enel, who had been pretending to be a noble with Odahime and Muse Garrett recently, restrained her fierce aura. Now he is really a bit noble. Hey, you are the guard of the palace. But this vigilance is too low. Forget it, it doesn't matter what your status is, just be my subordinate. Enel stretched out his right hand. Grace laughed angrily. You, an intruder, asked me, the princess, to be your subordinate. Your brain isn't broken, is it? I'm not a bodyguard, but the third princess of Verslow, Grace Kurland. Intruder, sign up. Ah, Enel was a little surprised. Princess, then you should die. Dragon feet shaved. Boom. Grace's pupils shrank. She didn't expect Enel to do it directly, not even giving a name. Kankan held the sword in front of him, blocking Enel's attack. Enel approached her and punched her in the forehead. Dangerously and narrowly dodged the punch, but did not dodge the next kick. Fly backwards sideways into the hall. Ping pong. Many tables and chairs were smashed along the way. His Royal Highness Princess. Dauber hurried to her side. Instead of asking about the injury, he drew his sword in the direction she flew from, and looked alert. He hadn't seen Enel yet, but his instincts as a warrior made him know that the best thing to do at this time was to be prepared for a possible attack. Be careful, that man is very strong. Grace got up from the ground. Enel entered the banquet hall, and the soldiers immediately surrounded him. He looked around at a leisurely pace, without the slightest nervousness about being surrounded. He saw Bartholomew from the top seat, the crown conspicuous in the bright lights. You are Bartholomew Colander? Asked Enel. Who are you? What's your purpose here? We don't seem to know each other. Bartholomew looked directly at Enel. Ahaha, I wonder if you still have any impression of the surname Lafourwater. Could it be that you are? Bartholomew was a little surprised, but not too panicked. Because Enel was still surrounded by soldiers. Yes, I am the son of the former king you expelled, Wenris's son. Agnol Viserys Lefort. I am back, to get my things back. The crown is on your head. It has been in the mail for so long, should it be returned? Chapter 223 Simon. Young man, you are really strong and have great potential, but don't be too arrogant. After all, a person's strength is limited, you can really. Before Basilam's words were finished, Enel had already launched an attack. Black Bullet. Dabur slashed the attack with his sword and stopped in front of him. Your Majesty, please step back, it is very dangerous here. Basilam had a lingering fear in his heart. Although he didn't see what Enel had done, he did feel the threat of death just now. Then it's up to you. He turned to leave. Enel had the will to kill him, how could he let him escape? Wenris did not care that the throne was taken away from him, nor did Enel care that he usurped the throne. But he has a lot of influence among the people of Verslow, and keeping him is to cause trouble for himself. He rushed straight towards Bartholom. Don't ignore me. Dabur stabbed Enel's neck with a sword. Without dodging, Enel punched Basilam on the back. The latter pounced forward, slamming his head hard against the ground, twisting at an unnatural angle. Clearly out of breath. Dabur looked at Enel in horror, and the sword with a domineering look in his hand didn't even pierce Enel's skin. How is this possible? Nothing is impossible, you are too weak. Allegiance to me, or die. Choose your own path. Give you 10 seconds to think. Dabur's mind was spinning fast. He and Enel only had a preliminary fight. Although he was shocked by Enel's defense, he did not even show half of his strength. He didn't know if he could cut through Enel's defense with all his strength. There is only one person on the other side, and the members of the King's Guard are not weak. If Uzi arrives with the soldiers, their chances of winning are not low. But Enel's composure made him a little drummer. Another important point is that the king is dead. Among Basilam's children, Princess Grace and the eldest prince are the best, and the rest are straw bags. In terms of talent and public opinion, Grace has the upper hand. But she was a woman, and the inheritance was the prince's priority. This is the rule of the aristocratic class in Verslow, and just this one, there are a large number of supporters behind the eldest prince. His power is no lower than Princess Grace. In other words, Verslow would be plunged into civil unrest. Dabur was on the princess's side, and he was Grace's swordsmanship teacher. And Uzi is on the prince's side, so it's very likely that he's deliberately delaying time now. Let him die at the hands of thieves and take out a tough foe. The enemy itself is very powerful, but his own side has already started fighting, which is very unfavorable. What are the benefits of surrendering? He does not have absolute loyalty, and he has already considered retreating when he realizes that his situation is not good. Dabur felt that Enel's fighting power added to his own. In addition, with his prestige, he can make some people rebel along with him, and it is still possible to control the palace. If Bartholom's children can be killed immediately, then Enel's becoming king is appropriate. Enel has just been crowned and needs manpower to stabilize the political situation. Judging from the way he was single-handedly killed, he must be strong, but he has no available subordinates. As the first defector, he will definitely be reused. After helping Enel win the throne, it may not benefit him any less than supporting Grace. So he made a quick decision, got down on one knee, and threw decisively. You're very sensible. Enel patted him on the shoulder. There was chaos in the palace, with shouts and footsteps of armored soldiers running by. The 4 guards at the back door connected to the waterway were awakened long ago. After all, there was such a big movement that no one could fall asleep. But they didn't receive an order, and they could only stand in place and look like they were doing their jobs. Simon, what the hell happened to the palace? It's not an assassin, is it? A guard asked. Simon, who was standing next to him, broke out in cold sweat, and he suddenly remembered that he seemed to have seen someone go in a daze. Is it not a dream? Well, no one found out anyway, so it was just a dream. Reluctantly calmed down, he replied, it's about the adults anyway, we just need to do our own thing, don't worry about it. That's what he said his companion. The marble door suddenly opened, and a big man with a red face came out. This is their boss. You guys, come with me quickly. Simon's heart twitched again, he thought he was asking them to be held accountable. However, after entering the garden and following the red-faced man into the team, he realized that something was wrong. The second person in their escort team, Lord Uzi, is standing at the front of the team. And the number of guards here has occupied 2/3 of the entire palace. This is not like a lineup of assassins at all, but rather like a coup. A young man in fancy clothes came over surrounded by a group of people. He walked over to Uzi, nodded at him, and then looked at the soldiers. Simon knew the man was the Grand Prince, and he had seen it up close in the past. I know that you are very confused now, and I am actually very confused. But the current situation does not allow us to continue to be confused. My father, the wise king who led this country to prosperity, was assassinated. And the murderer was the son of the tyrannical king of the past. We cannot allow this country to fall into the hands of the Lefauwaters again. I will take the responsibility of my father and take on the better life he brought you. Promise. Now, I hope you will hold your weapons and follow me. What your tomorrow will be depends on what you do today. Simon was very excited after hearing the last sentence. Gearing up, this is a rare opportunity. The eldest prince has made it clear that he is going to be king, and he will show it tonight. May be able to be appreciated among the ranks of the nobles. The eldest prince looked at the eager expressions of his subordinates, and smiled at Uzi. After they got the news of the king's assassination, they integrated the soldiers in the palace as soon as possible. In their opinion, a mere assassin is nothing to fear. Grace is what they should be more vigilant about. He wants to take the opportunity to take Dabur and Grace together, so that no one can threaten his throne. Simon suddenly saw a figure in the sky. Thinking it was his own delusion, he rubbed his eyes. Didn't you wake up? The figure became clearer. Not only Simon, but the rest of the soldiers also saw it, and there was a commotion in the crowd. As they watched, the figure swooped down from the sky. Uzi felt the fatal crisis behind him and wanted to roll forward. But it was too late. A scaly hand grabbed his neck and plunged into darkness. Simon still felt a little unreal. The eldest prince, who was still in high spirits the moment before, was carried away by the neck. Like an eagle catching a chicken. At that moment, he could clearly see the appearance of Enel, the boy who walked up the stairs connecting the waterway at the back door. He shuddered as he recalled those red eyes. Chapter 224 Enter the Palace. Enel threw the corpses of Uzi and the eldest prince, whom he had strangled with his claws, to Dabur. Then he said, I'll leave it to you next, don't let the Kielander family run away. Without waiting for him to answer, he stretched his wings and flew towards the eulogy. Dabur looked at Uzi's body and broke out in cold sweat. His strength is not much stronger than Uzi, and the fact that Uzi died so neatly shows that Enel's strength is far beyond his imagination. He can easily kill Uzi, and naturally he can also easily kill himself. I'm a little fortunate that I made the right choice. Enel returned to the boat and saw Carter and Muse Garrod Saint fishing. Saint Garrod, the Muse, sat on a sofa made of island clouds, holding a fishing rod in one hand and digging booger in the other. Damn fish, why haven't you taken the bait? Seeing Enel who flew back, he turned his head and said, My friend, have you done your job? I miss Mary Joa, you don't know how to enjoy yourself. There are no servants, and the food is cheap. Goods, if someone else dared to perfunctory me with this kind of rubbish, I would have wanted him to look good. Quote. Carter rolled his eyes, displeased with him. I've brought out all my favorite foods to serve you, and you're still not satisfied. The boat of friendship is overturned. Enel's food is really bad, he doesn't have much requirements for this. Just enough to fill your stomach. Buying food is basically done by Carter, and what he prepares can be said to be cat food, mostly fish. Oh, my friend, I've made you suffer. I'm sorry I can only entertain you with these things. But I'm just a poor prince with limited financial capacity. Now that I have regained the throne, I officially invite you to me the palace as a guest. Enel blinked desperately, trying to squeeze some tears out. Oh Tilda, you've already succeeded, that's great. I was thinking that if you fail, I'll send someone over to help you. It's just past over there, and it's a little chaotic. But it's okay to order a sumptuous feast. St. Muse Garrett's eyes lit up. He has lost weight recently because of Carter's cat food. Need to make up a few good meals. By the time they reached the palace, Dauber had already packed up. With both Uzi and the eldest prince killed, and Grace being seriously injured by Enel, it didn't take much effort at all. And those nobles are also very aware of current affairs. After seeing that the Kellen family was gone, they all swore to support Enel. In their view, no matter who the king is, they cannot be separated from them, and they must be drawn together. It's impossible to clean it all off. Enel also had no problem with the scumbags. Just accept his orders calmly, and if there is trouble, kill them. When they saw St. Muse Garrett walking in slowly, their faces showed disbelief. How is it possible? This is a Tianlong person. Why did Lord Tianlong come here? For these nobles, the status that they aspire to be as high as the world nobles. HMPH, St. Muse Garrett snorted displeased ly. He is a nobleman of the world, a descendant of the great creator, and he is fundamentally different from these mudlegs. Bloodline determines their status. This group of nobles just remembered what to do next. Kneel down, bow your head. No exclusion at all. For them, this is just a courtesy to show respect to their superiors. This is the state of the ruling class in this world. Subordinates obey their superiors, do whatever they can, and use all their bargaining chips to climb up. In fact, pirates are an outlier. Pirates are challengers to the traditional order. Pirates in the world, in addition to those who are not on the table, only know how to kill, burn, and loot garbage. There is another layer of concept. Those kings who traversed the New World eventually developed into an armed group. Is a political force that cannot be ignored. They are not so much pirates, but warlords, or princes and kings. In this turbulent world, the world government occupies a place of righteousness. Is the legitimate ruler, the most authoritative. Its ruling class is the nobility. The second is the four emperors. They are independent legions that are biased towards one corner, and they are a military government different from the world government. The Revolutionary Army, which is still in its infancy, is the rise of another class. It is a direct impact on the power of the nobles. Therefore, the attitude of the 5 old stars towards the 4 emperors should be balanced. The world government can be regarded as a huge country, while the 4 emperors and other large and small forces are relatively weak countries. The measures taken by the 5 old stars towards these forces are equivalent to the attitude of a big country towards a combative small country. The Revolutionary Army, on the other hand, is a direct confrontation without end. They rebelled directly within the country. Internal chaos is more deadly than dealing with the rest of the small countries with hegemonic intentions. Is there a dance here just now? Hurry up and get some food, I'm hungry. St. Muse Garrett sat on the seat of Bossalom. It's really messy. Hurry up and tidy up, don't disturb my young master's interest in dining. He commanded. Enel used the darkness to clean up the corpse and the broken tables, chairs, wine glasses, and the like. Then he said, I'll talk about it tomorrow, the dance will continue today, don't let my friends spoil the fun. New tables and chairs were replaced, and plates of dishes were brought by the maids and placed on the table in front of the holy seat of Muse Garrett. The music sounded, and the beautiful melody remained. But the dancers were all absent-minded, they were all thinking about the changes in the domestic political situation after tonight. And the next steps to take. After the ball was over, the group of nobles who wanted to come and chat was sent away. Enel took a phone bug and walked to St. Garrett, the muse. My dear friend, can you do me a little favor? Said Enel. Huh, what's the matter? Let's talk. By the way, you said you wanted to find tens of millions of bounties for me as slaves, but don't forget. Don't worry, how can I go back on what I promised? It's just that their whereabouts are uncertain, and it may take some time to find them. It's simple, I'll ask the Navy to provide you with information, and then you can go and capture it for me. That would save a lot of trouble. You really deserve to be a world aristocrat. I want to contact the 5 old stars. Do you know their phone numbers? My friend. This, Saint Muse Garrett dragged his chin as a memory. I don't know, I'll just contact my father and ask him. Speaking of which, I should call him too. Chapter 225 Dialogue with the World's Highest Authority. Who are you? A slightly soft male voice came from the phone bug. My daddy, it's me, said Saint Muse Garrett. My son, where have you been? I'm so worried about you. Haven't contacted me for so long. Hey, is too terrible, I almost see you. My daddy, my ship was attacked by the beast, and the dead slaves still want to take the opportunity to do it. Muse Holy Garrett burst into tears, and this encounter terrified him. I cried like a kid who was robbed of a lollipop. What? It doesn't matter, are you okay? Damn it, you dare to attack the nobles of the world, you must be severely punished. Hey, that's okay because my new friends have already dealt with them. Friend, another celestial dragon, or do you think of the pariah as a friend? I won't allow you to do such a disgraceful thing. Not a pariah, but a king. He is very powerful, and he has the qualifications. He also said that he would send me a few pirates with a reward of tens of millions to be slaves. I am looking forward to it. Oh, that's not bad, wise son. Don't worry, how could I have forgotten your share? My daddy. Then Muse Garrett Saint and his father talked a lot about everything, from slaves, women, to national events, the world situation, everything was said again. Saint Garrett, the Muse, was instructed not to run around, and the Revolutionary Army already had some signs of it. There are always bad guys trying to harm them, so remember to pay attention to safety. It was not until the last time when Enel was drowsy that Saint Muse Garrett remembered to ask the 5 old stars on the phone. He told Enel the number and went to bed. Carter, you go protect that guy and don't let anything happen. Carter nodded. It doesn't matter to him the Draco or anything, but this man is of great use to Enel, so he can't let it go. Obahime went to the city accompanied by Roy. The Central Highlands is not only a palace, but also residential areas, commercial areas, and entertainment areas for nobles. Basilam developed the Central Highlands into a prosperous area. Fishman Island has decided to form an alliance with Enel, so they must know more about this country. They expect to communicate frequently in the future. Although there is a big gap between Roy and Enel and Carter, it is still very strong for ordinary people. It can easily break the steel like Carl Flax tree, which shows that its attack power is not low. In this relatively safe place, it is still possible to protect Otoji. It was already late at night, and Saint Muse Garrett chatted for a long time, for more than 3 hours. The hall was empty, and only Enel sat alone in his seat. After Saint Muse Garrett left the hall to sleep, the party ended and the nobles also left. Because Enel said not to let the Tianlong people spoil the fun, they did not dare to relax at all, and danced for more than 3 hours in a row. The singers were hoarse, and the musicians had cramps. When the dancing nobles left, their legs trembled, feeling that they were not theirs anymore. The maids were quite frightened in the chaos. Enel sent the shivering maids away and told them to go back to rest. The food and cakes on the table were not cleaned up. The tables are full of mess and the lights are bright. The door of the hall was open, and the moonlight outside was as bright as water. The water sparkled farther away. Enel picked up the phone bug and talked to the world's highest authority. Even though he had experienced a lot of things, he was still a little hesitant. The other party is the final boss of the pirate world, who controls the huge organization of the world government. For the mysterious and unpredictable 5 old stars, Enel is extremely vigilant. The 3 generals and the 4 emperors have basically been shown in the original works. But the 5 old stars were still shrouded in mist. Enel thought about how he should talk to them. Is it more polite and courteous like in front of Saint Muse Garrett, or is it vulgar and rude like a pirate? The image created in front of the 5 old stars is related to the main opponent he will face on the government side in the future. The first feeling is that of a villain who is used to conspiracy and ghost tricks. Then the 5 old stars should make the CP department pay more attention to Neil. In the second case, it gives the impression of a vulgar, rude and violent person. They will let the Navy come to contain Anil, so that he can not easily start a war, in order to maintain political stability. In the end, Anil decided to adopt the second attitude. This is more in line with his character. Dressing gracefully in the presence of Holy Muse Garrett made his heart tired. In addition, compared to the shadowy CP organization, Anil felt that the Navy was easier to deal with. He called the 5 old stars. The curly-haired 5 old star sat by the window and looked at the moon. Mary Joa is a city above the clouds, where the sky is bright. Looking around, there is no obstacle, the moon is always bright and the stars are shining. He fell asleep. The formation of the 4 emperors group temporarily calmed the turbulent sea, and the Chihuahai plan was proceeding as expected. But one wave has not settled. The information about the Revolutionary Army made him a little uneasy, and he vaguely felt that this was a big trouble, maybe a bigger threat than the 4 emperors who dominated the New World. Boom blah blah blah. The phone worm rang. This is the office phone worm. He was a little puzzled. Usually, they had already gone to bed by this time. Unless there was an emergency, no one would have called so late. Did something go wrong again? Thinking of this, his face was not very good. Picked up the phone bug and asked, "What's the matter?" "Alala, why did you pick it up so quickly? You 5 old men haven't slept yet. Are you working so diligently? This is really beyond my expectations." A frivolous voice came from the phone bug. "Who are you?" The curly-haired 5 old star said solemnly. He was sure that there was absolutely no such person among his subordinates. Ignoring the disrespectful tone on the other side, I went straight to the topic. He has already cultivated the mentality of not being happy with appearances, and the attitude of the other party is secondary. What to say is what matters. There are not a few mavericks in the Navy who directly curse like smog. If they care about this every time, they will probably be pissed off long ago. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Anil Viserys Lefort. I should be considered a wanted pirate at the moment. Pirates. The curly-haired 5 old stars tone was filled with doubts, with a puzzled expression on his face. Chapter 226 Apply. What do the pirates have to do with me? Asked the curly-haired 5 old star. He didn't wonder why the pirates knew his number, and he also knew some of the virtues of officials in the government. Working with pirates or something is almost the norm. For those ordinary people who were oppressed by pirates, this was a disaster, but in the eyes of the 5 old stars, it was just a trivial matter. To them, as long as it is not something that can shake the world government's rule, it is irrelevant. Their focus is on the stability of the entire world political situation. Even small local turmoil can be shelved. And some things in the underground world always have to be in contact with these lawless elements. So they turned a blind eye to it. Actually, I don't want to be a pirate either. I never raised the pirate flag, nor did I take the initiative to attack the world government's institutions, but I was wanted for no reason. I've been very distressed. The phone bug imitated Enel's expression vividly. Why are you being wanted not mentioned for the time being? What are you trying to say? Shouldn't you be here to appeal? Yeah, let's get down to business. I'm in Verslow now, and you should have some impression of the surname Lefauwater too. Valslow Lovewater, is that so? Are you saying you've? That's right, I'm back again. Back where I belonged, and successfully regaining the throne. I want to ask if Verslow under my rule is still recognized as a member of the world government. Curly-haired Wu Laoxing was silent for a while, and then slowly said, "This is indeed an important matter, I will discuss it with others. I will give you an answer as soon as possible. Don't hang up the phone bug for now, there are still some things to do." Ask you. Enel heard footsteps on the opposite side and the rubbing of paper. The other party should be looking for some information. There are many countries that join the world government, and it is impossible for the 5 old stars to remember each one clearly. There are many factors why he reacted when Enel mentioned him Verslow. First of all, Verslow is very close to Mary Joa and is the gateway to the New World. Second, when Basilam usurped the throne at that time, he was boycotted by most of the joining countries, causing a lot of trouble. In addition, Imnil has appeared in the water capital recently, and Spandam has reported to them, so the Navy will dispatch troops to assist CP9, otherwise it is not enough to mobilize the Navy just by the power of the CP9 commander. The 5 curly-haired stars carefully checked the report submitted by Spandam. They didn't read much at all and handed over the matter to the other party. At present, the opinions within the world government are not uniform about the idea of the ancient weapon, Pluto. Some people worry about its resurrection, thinking that such a dangerous thing should not exist in the world. Another part of people is holding that instead of worrying about its resurrection, it is better to actively wake up the weapon and put an end to this big pirate era. Turn it into a fighting force for justice. In fact, the 5 old stars themselves have doubts about whether to enable Pluto. Because Pluto is a powerful warship, it can destroy the opponent's basic combat power on a large scale. But for those top powerhouses, the effect is not very obvious. And the reason why this big pirate era will be opened and its momentum is so huge is more because the top powerhouses are unwilling to be controlled and want to be free and unfettered. Moreover, what the world government needs is domination, not destruction. If you can really use Pluto to end this troubled world, but the price is that the whole world becomes riddled with holes, it will be a bit of a loss. Therefore, they did not pay much attention to the handling of Pluto. As long as it doesn't fall into the hands of those who have the ambition and the strength to build Pluto. Otherwise, it will not be CP9, but CP0. For them, although the current world political situation is chaotic, it is not very critical. Compared with the revolution in full swing at the beginning of the original book, the current situation is many times better. The curly-haired 5 old star was speechless when he saw the report full of subjective speculation in his hand. He is deeply worried about the future of the world government. The whole government officials, like Spandam, can take the position of the CP9 commander, which is evident. But even if they are determined to change, it is not so easy. Because the scope of involvement is too broad. This is the fault of the entire class. If they want to change forcibly, they will be backlashed by all the noble forces. And the aristocratic power is the basis for the ruling of the world government, and the 5 old stars cannot betray their own class. After carefully reading the information about Anil, he asked, I want to ask you to explain something. In the past 6 years, we have not received any information about you. Could you please explain, why did you appear in the water capital? What is the purpose? We will judge what kind of attitude we should take towards you based on your answer. Quote. These 6 years. I've been on Haley Island all the time, because I was wanted by you guys, but I'm very scared. You can send someone there to check, there should be traces of my life. By the way, send it over. The strength of the people in this place can't be too weak, but there is a very terrifying big squid that can spray magma, and I was chased by it for a long time. As for why you went to the water capital, of course, it was for shipbuilding. Why, you seem to be very concerned about it. That guy Lucci also started fighting when he saw me. Do you have any important arrangements there? Enel pretended to be interested. It's not good for you to know too much. It's better to be confused about some things. I know what you want. I will convene the staff to discuss and give you an answer as soon as possible. The curly-haired 5 old star said after a little thought. At some point behind him, a man wearing a white robe and a mask appeared. He said to the masked man, send someone to Haley Island to investigate. The masked man nodded, then backed out. I have one more thing to say. It seems that your government has a plan for the 7 Marshalseas under the king. What do you think of me? I think I should have the strength to be qualified for that position. Chiwahai, we will consider it. Then you can wait patiently for the news. The stakes are very important, and we must be careful. His tone was much better, no longer as cold as at the beginning, with a hint of softness. Because he himself had already tended to accept Enel. A king who belongs to the same noble class as himself and wants to join the political system of the world government is a power that belongs to their side. They are natural allies when it comes to class interests. And Enel didn't have much conflict with their world government in the past. Enel first participated in the war as a mercenary, under the name of one of the countries. It is not the same as the nature of the pirate invasion. Not under the jurisdiction of their government. He's wanted because Southampton used their rights as a world government ally. But if Enel also has the qualifications to be the king of the countries that join the world government, then the wanted share is naturally meaningless. His bloodline, to inherit Verslow, is legitimate. In addition, Enel's strength is also worth their efforts to win over. Chapter 227. 5 old men gathered in the middle of the night. Enel ordered Dauber to take him to the location of the palace treasury. They walked through the twisting corridors and then came to Basilam's bedroom, next to his bedroom. This is made of 2-meter-long steel plates. Only Basilam knows where the key is. Do you need me to call the locksmith? Your Majesty, Enel. Dauber said respectfully. No need. After Enel's arm was transformed into a dragon, he punched it directly. Boom. Don't break a big hole in the heavy steel gate. Dauber watched Enel's movements, and the corners of his mouth twitched. On the one hand, Enel's power shocked him, and on the other hand, he felt that Enel didn't seem to want to make a good kingdom. Such an act is simply a robber. His feeling was accurate. Enel was actually a robber, just trying to disguise himself by putting on a coat of king. Basilam has accumulated a lot of wealth, and Enel initially estimated that it was about 500 million to 600 million. This seemed nothing to Enel, who was spending a lot of money, but it was actually quite a lot. If he hadn't plundered Sandia's gold, he'd be a pauper too. In the original book, even a country as vast as Anabaston could not afford 1 billion Baileys. Unlike ordinary pirates, the king has nothing but treasures except for a ship. Most of their assets are real estate such as land and houses. It is rare to have so many liquid assets. Dauber was blinded by the house full of belongings. The fragrance of the golden metallic taste, the dazzling light of the multicolored gemstones, and the intriguing numbers on Bailey made his heart a little faster. I really want to. Calm down, be calm. Enel glanced around and saw neither the devil fruit nor the famous sword. He still remembered that he had promised Akutagawa Huang to find him a better knife. He was a little disappointed. How come there is no good thing at all? Enel is not short of money. What is lacking is a way to convert money into devil fruits. Dauber would like to say, if you don't want it, give it to me. But he restrained himself well enough not to be so explicit. He is an aristocrat and must be educated. And Enel has just ascended the throne. What he needs now is to show his loyalty and ability to gain a higher status. With power, isn't the money coming in a lot? Enel is confident that he is recognized by the world government, but he has no confidence in governing the country. Completely blinded. If there is something to worry about tomorrow, he decides to go to bed. Your Majesty, what's going on here? Dauber asked. Enel yawned and said casually, whatever, you can do it yourself, take it if you want. It is said that when you manage your subordinates, you have to slap and give you a sweet jujube. Enel slapped lightly today, thinking that Dauber, the temporarily surrendered leading party, did a good job, so he decided to give him a reward. Enel didn't know how much to give, so he let Dauber take it for himself. Anyway, he doesn't care about those belongings very much. Even if he takes all of them, it doesn't matter. In his opinion, Dauber was still worth the price. Dauber's strength is good, and he has a lot of prestige in the original aristocratic circle. Moreover, he was familiar with the political situation of Verslow, and it was quite cost-effective to be able to use this wealth in exchange for his serious work. Dauber didn't know what kind of medicine was sold in Enel's gourd, and no one really cared about such a large sum of money. So I stood guard at the gate of the treasure house all night. Not because he was loyal, but because of his appearance to show Enel. Promotion is imminent, no mistakes are allowed. Enel was asleep, but Maryjoy's 5 dedicated old men got up in the middle of the night for an emergency meeting. It's a pity that they are so old that they have to stay up all night to work. If you really admit Anil's position in the world government, then you don't have to worry, you can say it slowly tomorrow. But if the meeting does not pass Anil's application, then this is a bad incident of the pirate country, and the navy must be dispatched immediately. Although the 5 old stars with curly hair tend to admit Anil, and think that the rest of the people will agree, but what if? Being cautious, he started to deal with this matter for the first time. What exactly happened? Waking us up in the middle of the night, it must be an emergency. Long story short, the long-bearded 5 old stars sorted out his suit that he didn't fully wear. The curly-haired 5 old stars said lightly, "The urgency of the matter depends on our opinion on this matter. Is it a pirate stealing the country or a legitimate restoration of the country?" Navy Headquarters, Marshal's Office. Sengoku finally processed the last document and handed it to the messenger next to him, heaving a sigh of relief. "Pick up the teacup on the table, no official business, it's beautiful." "Ha ha ha Sengoku, let's eat senbei in a competition." Garp held a bag of senbei. If Enel was here, he would have recognized that it was the same senbei that Garp used to beat him 7 years ago. Produced by a naval rations manufacturer and endorsed by Garp, you can buy with confidence and eat comfortably. There are 2 things that annoy Zhongguo the most. First, there are so many documents to die for. Second, Garp likes to hang around in front of him with a cup of tea when he is dealing with things. Every time I saw Garp's idiot face, Sengoku wanted to cover his face with senbei. A girl with a metal mask on the right side of her face walked in and said to Garp, "Grandpa, are we still not dispatching? I'm running out of patience." According to military discipline, Dolores behavior is not allowed. Trespassing into the marshal's office is inappropriate. But in the op world, discipline issues have always been bad, not to mention pirates, not even the navy. G5 is simply a bunch of hooligans. The upper navy holds a battle meeting, which is like a gathering of gangsters. After Akainu became a marshal, he directly angered the 5 old stars. Even when Smog was a colonel, he dared to face it. The above directly scolded the 5 old stars. It's completely trivial for a general with a bit of personality like this to break into the marshal's office directly. "This time, it's not about us. CP9 just let us get ready to attack. Just wait patiently, that pirate can't escape." "Sally." Garp bit the senbei. "I've said it all, my name is Dolores." She snarled at Garp, "Isn't the CP agency always known for its high efficiency? Why is it so delayed? The black coffin has always been unknown, and we have lost his exact location. Over there, maybe their commander overslept, maybe wahahaha." Garp laughed. CP agency is indeed very high, but the leader of CP9 is Spandam. Lucci and the others are indeed very powerful, but there is a straw bag on their head pressing them, and there is no way to fully exert it. Spandam, who is really being discussed by Garp and Dolores, is now lying on the bed, kicked to the side by the quilt, snoring. He slept crookedly, and his upper body was already on the edge of the bed. Spandam turned over and fell to the ground, screaming like a pig, "It hurts." Chapter 228 Lieutenant General Miguel. The next morning, Enel, who was lying on the big soft bed, suddenly opened his eyes. Then looked northwest. A group of people were approaching from the sea, and one of them even reached the rank of lieutenant general. "Navy, come to beat me," Enel pondered for a moment, and then denied the guess. "If you want to catch yourself, it is impossible to succeed without a general level. The government's estimate of strength should not be too biased. After all, the strength that he showed when he fought Lucci had already reached the level of a lieutenant general. Or is it the official appointment of Chiwahai? This efficiency is too high. Or pirates? It was useless to guess randomly. He woke Carter and asked him to pay attention to protect Saint Garrod, the muse. The benefits of inviting a Tianlong person to go home are obvious, but there are also many troubles. You have to eat and drink, and you have to pay attention to safety. If something goes wrong, then the trouble is big. Otoji also woke up. Her sense of sight was very strong, and even the perception distance was not much worse than Ainil. It is impossible for such a powerful voice to break into her perception range without noticing it. Enel spread his wings and fluttered into the sky. Miguel was sitting on a chair with a white marble table in front of him. With a cup of strong coffee. The rich and mellow smell wafts on the deck of the warship. He believes in unhurried justice. No matter what he does, he is unhurried. Even after taking over an important task, he still made a cup of coffee with a relaxed expression on his face. Anyway, no matter how nervous you are, you can't change the speed of the warship's sailing. It's better to enjoy the time on the road. He picked up the coffee, and the white cup looked small and delicate in his large hands. After taking a sip, the rich aroma spreads in the mouth. There is an expression of enjoyment on the face. No wonder. Miguel grimaced. This coffee is really bitter. He hates bitterness. Someone, put me 3 kilograms of white sugar. Lieutenant General Miguel, this cup of sugar that weighs 3 kilograms may not fit. A sailor saluted solemnly and said. Why is this coffee so bitter? Isn't there something better? Miguel complained. It was not only the taste buds that suffered, but also his heart. He was very dissatisfied with this mission. The purpose of his trip was not to fight pirates, but to escort a willful Tianlong. Immediately after the call, the father of Saint Muse Garrett used his powers to ask the Navy to send someone to pick up his son. He is not as easy to fool as Saint Garrett, the Muse, and he is always a little uneasy about his son's sudden addition of an inexplicable friend, like Enel. The world noble Tianlong people, in the entire op world, play a more negative role than pirates, and almost all evils are reflected in them. Of course, the Navy doesn't have a good opinion of these guys, and Miguel's justice is not dark. The style of the Tianlong people made him feel sick. But as a soldier, you have to accept orders from your superiors. This is the unfreedom of being in a system, a restraint on one's own actions. That's why Enel didn't join the Navy. Lieutenant General Miguel, there is someone in the sky. The lookout suddenly pointed to the sky. Miguel's expression became serious. This is a new world, and he may encounter powerful monsters at any time, so he seems to be relaxed, but in fact he has always been in a state of looseness on the outside and tightness on the inside. From time to time, use the color of knowledge to be alert to the surrounding. He had just discovered that there was a sound in the sky, but it was not strong. He thought it was a bird, so he didn't care. Knowing that the watchman reminded him now, he paid attention to it. Enel's physical skills are not good, and the domineering is just average. Therefore, he will find another way to use dark power to absorb domineering. His manipulation of darkness is more subtle, much more subtle than Blackbeard's rough use. What Enel can attract is not only his own domineering, but also the ability to weaken others. Whether it's armed, or seen, even if it's an overlord, it's all within his dark capture range. This is a very practical means, and its effect is no less than learning to be domineering. If one day his dark power can be strengthened to a certain extent, then he can completely silence the opponent. At that time, once caught by him, the devil fruit and domineering can't be used, and they can only rely on to fight. As for the power of competition, Enel is the strongest in this aspect. Of course, that level can only be imagined, and it is simply impossible to achieve at present. Enel flew to the front of the warship and stopped. Miguel looked at the young man in front of him with a solemn expression. The wings on the back are dark, the corners of the eyes are wearing mysterious blue lines, and the broken hair is flying in the wind. You are. Enel is also a small celebrity in the upper and middle ranks of the Navy, because Dolores, the granddaughter that Garp had taken in, was obsessed with him. Every week I go to the intelligence agent to ask about him. These 6 years have been uninterrupted. They also shared the latest photos from CP9 recently. From the direction Enel flew from, it can be speculated that he came from Verslow, where the Draconians are located. Although I don't like them, if anything goes wrong, it will be a lot of trouble for the entire Navy. The Navy did not receive the information that Anil and Muse Garrett were together, and they always thought he was in the paradise. Looking at the unexpected guest who suddenly appeared in front of him, Miguel began to worry about the situation of Saint Muse Garrett. If you were kidnapped and wanted to negotiate terms, that's fine, there's still room for remedies. But if something unexpected happened, then his naval career is estimated to come to an end. Ah, do you know me? Am I that conspicuous? Enel didn't know that Carp had been looking for him for more than 6 years. He looked at Miguel, and always felt that this half-bald guy was a little familiar. Well, you're quite famous in our Navy. What's your purpose? Miguel asked. Purpose? Enel tilted his head. What am I doing here? He asked the Navy. Just now I was attracted by Miguel's appearance, and suddenly I forgot what I wanted to say. That's your question, shouted the Navy. Oh, I remember. I'm here to ask the purpose of your Navy. Are those 5 old men so efficient in their work? The result is so soon. Isn't it that the matter is very important and needs to be discussed? Neil took them as sent by the 5 old stars. 5 old men, 5 old stars. It's a big deal. Miguel caught some vague information between the lines. But he didn't think too much. He was here just to perform the task, and he didn't want to worry about the rest. He also knows the darkness in the world government, and it is normal to make deals with pirates. Seeing Miguel's reaction, Enel knew that he had guessed wrong. Said, I am the current king of the kingdom of Verslow, and you will set foot on my territory before you move forward. Please explain your purpose first, otherwise I will not let people with weapons of mass destruction enter, in case of injury. It's not good for my subjects. And there is a world noble as a guest in my palace, it's not good if I disturb him. I was ordered to escort Saint Muse Garrett back to Mary Joa. Miguel went straight in. Although Anil was a little surprised to say that he was the king, he didn't want to worry about the bad things involving the nobles. He didn't want to know what Anil had to do with Saint Muse Garrett, as long as he wasn't kidnapped. Miguel now just wants to quickly finish this mess, and then go back to drink coffee while implementing the justice in his heart. Picking up Saint Muse Garrett. Enel couldn't ask for it, and he has long been impatient to deal with the Tianlong people these days. But in order to create the fact that dragon people admit the illegality of his throne, he had to take over the Muse Garrett and entertain him. Although there is basically no problem with the agreement of the 5 old stars, the more guarantees, the better. There's no harm in befriending the Tianlong people. Chapter 229 Bid Farewell. Saint Muse Garrett stood in front of Miguel's warship. Anil wiped her tears and said goodbye. Oh my friend, are you leaving? Come and play when you have time. Carter couldn't bear to watch this exaggerated acting, and rolled his eyes. Roy covered his face and stood far away from Enel, as if I didn't know this guy. But in the eyes of Muse Garrett, this is a true friend. How deep is that feeling? Those tears, how sincere. This is my greatness. I am a world noble, I am great. This is the correct attitude of the pariahs towards me. If not, how can it reflect the nobility of this young master? Saint Muse Garrett was very satisfied with Enel's behavior, and his posture was correct. Yes, I will definitely kill you scumbags one day. My friend, I'm glad you can recognize my greatness. So our friendship will continue. Find something interesting to dedicate to me. Then our friendship will last forever. Muse Garrett Shengpang slowly boarded the warship with 8 character steps. Ogahime, who wanted to go to Marihoa together, also went up. She felt the huge malice in Enel's heart that seemed to engulf the soul of a person. That irritable heart like a beast. With cold sweat on his face, is this a human? Although I can't wait to smash the other party's corpse into thousands of pieces, but still able to greet him with a smile, how dark. What a twist. Wouldn't it be nice for everyone to open up and be honest with each other? Why are you trying to deceive me? Although she is very contradictory now, the maliciousness in Enel's heart shows that he is definitely not a good person. Is it really good to let Bai Xing marry such a person? The marriage contract has not yet been decided, and she still needs to think more seriously. But not many people are willing to accept the Murlocs. The only thing that reassured her was that when she mentioned the Murlocs or Shiro, Enil showed no ill will or disgust. When he finally left, Enel said to Otahime, "Good luck." Watching the warship slowly leave, Enel turned and walked towards the palace. The diplomatic issue is for now, and there are more severe situations waiting for him. Internal affairs. Enel is a martial artist, and he will never use his mind to solve things that can be solved with his fists. This is not to say that he has no brains, he can still distinguish the stakes. There is no problem in formulating a general strategy, but if you really want to put it into practice, his eyes are blank. Enel tugged at her hair with both hands. "What the hell is this?" "Your Majesty, this is the country's internal affairs recently." Dauber's expression remained unchanged. Looking at the half-meter thick pile of paper, Enel felt that his head was as big as 3 of his usual size. If Sengoku saw it, he would probably be very happy that someone faced the same distress as himself. Does the king usually have to deal with so many government affairs? Enel looked bewildered. No, not so much in normal times, these are extraordinary times. There are quite a few diehards in Basilam, and rebellions have broken out all over the country. They are all under the banner of rescuing members of the Koland royal family. Of course, not all of them are its true loyalty to Basilam. Some are just for their own ambitions, and some people are dissatisfied. Dauber hesitated. Dissatisfied with my rule, right? Agnel took over the topic. The Lefauwater family was very unpopular in Verslow. He knows this. We should quickly organize manpower to quell the rebellion, and win over those nobles to send troops. Stop. Enel interrupted what he was about to say. We'll talk about the rebellion later. What else does the king need to do? Isn't there anyone to help with the documents? Yes, but those people are still on the sidelines. Dauber always felt that he was on the wrong boat. He always felt that Enel seemed to be more concerned with the government affairs of the kingdom than the rebellion. Don't worry about the rebellion, I will solve it. You don't need to worry about those who oppose it. Find out and I will kill them all. The point is, will you deal with this? Enel pointed to the document and asked. Dauber's eyes lit up, and he understood what Enel meant. Enel didn't want to care about anything, and left the usual government affairs to him. And Enel is responsible for killing all the dissenting voices. This means that Enel has given most of the rights to Dauber, except that he needs to obey Enel. His rights are almost half the king. Yes, Dauber said loudly. Although he mainly practices martial arts and is not very good at internal affairs, he can find someone to help. He recruited several capable subordinates to help come up with a specific plan, and in the end it was up to him to decide. As for Enel, he just needs to assign tasks. He doesn't care about Dauber's processing method, he just looks at the final result. Just meet his requirements. The reason why Daubert surrendered immediately that day was that he was in a bad situation at the time, and secondly, seeing that Enel seemed to have no power, he should be reused after he took refuge. But I didn't expect it to be so heavy. Enel had thought about calling art in the North Sea. Since the other party followed Wenris and taught him the etiquette of nobles when he was a child, he should also be able to handle government affairs. However, he, the king, was not prepared to do it for a long time. Once he encountered an irresistible strong enemy, he would leave the country and run away. Pirates don't need territory. It is because they are wandering and unconcerned that the navy has such a headache. If there is concern, then there is weakness. Enel has never thought about really running this country well. All he needs is to form a business network, so as to get involved in the channel of devil fruit trading. He didn't have the strength that the 4 emperors could make the navy headquarters dread, and paying too much attention to the territory was just a burden. He still has some feelings for art, and he didn't want to implicate him. At that time, it would not be very good if it hurt him instead. Well, that's the decision. In the future, the government affairs will be left to you. I don't care about your means or anything, but one thing is, you have to do what I want you to do, and if you can't do it well, you will be replaced. Enel reminded. I will definitely live up to your Majesty's trust. Dauber got down on one knee. By the way, what about the Colin family? Are they still alive? Enel asked. I am in prison, waiting for His Majesty's release, Dauber said. Oh, I'll go over there. Enel asked someone to take him to the prison, where the original princesses and princes were huddled in the corner. They, who had been pampered all the time, suddenly encountered this kind of change, and they all seemed to be frightened. It's only been one night since yesterday's accident. But in their eyes, this night was as long as a century. They spent the whole night in panic and panic. Seeing someone approaching, a woman in only pajamas clutched at the railing. She was dragged to prison in her sleep yesterday, and her voice was hoarse after crying all night. She screamed, "Let me out, you can't do this to me. I'm a princess." Enel looked at her blankly. "Please let me go out, I want to see the king, I can give you anything you want. Money, I have a lot of money, my body can also, please, let me go. I'm out." Chapter 230. This is cool. The rest of the princes and princesses behaved similarly, only Grace in a cell next to her, sitting quietly on a chair. Although it was a cell, it was Dauber who was in charge of arresting them. Even if they are reduced to prisoners, the treatment will not be too bad. This is a tacit understanding among nobles. There are beds, tables, and chairs in the cells. And a few more books. Apart from worrying that Grace might not be able to be trapped due to her strength, she put handcuffs on her hands. Other people's hands and feet were not handcuffed. But at this time, probably no one has the kind of spare time to study. Grace looked coldly at the person who stretched out her hand to grab Enel's trousers. That was her sister, who was usually a courtesan, often mixed with those young palace ministers, and she has always been at odds. Although Grace has already told everyone what happened at the dance that day, there are still people who still hold naive fantasies. I dislike it. Enel pouted, such a coquettish bitch still trying to seduce him. Enel will never be tempted by beauty. Anyway, I have to grow into Akutagawa Wong's level. Okay, why do you think of that guy Huang at this time? Enel turned to look at Grace. Her face was a little haggard, and she was seriously injured yesterday. The pale face reveals a weak aura, which makes people want to take care of her delicately. It does not have the heroic spirit of yesterday, but it reveals another kind of beauty. After the two looked at each other for a while, Grace took the initiative to speak. Can you spare my family? Huh, your family, you mean them? Enel pointed to the surrounding cells. Grace nodded. Aren't you worried about your own situation? Enel smiled. They shouldn't be a threat to you, right? Let them go, please. Although she said she was begging, her tone was still cold. His eyes stared directly at Enel, without the slightest fear. These rubbish are indeed optional. It doesn't matter if you kill or not, even if it is your strength, I don't take it seriously. But why should I let you go? Treat me like this, it's no good, is it? Grace bit her lower lip, thinking about what she could trade with Enel. I can help you stabilize the situation, she said. Stabilizing the situation? I don't care. Killing all those rebels just makes room for my future business plan. There is not much land suitable for living in the whole of Verslow. The gap in the outer highlands is at high tide, and sea water flows in, and many people live in treehouses. The outer circular highlands have strong sea breeze all the year round, which is not suitable for building residential buildings. Enel planned to completely smooth the slightly lower section of the circular highland, making it a C-shaped highland, so that the seawater could not pass through in normal times. As a result, air routes from overseas to the central highlands are unimpeded. Such a large project is difficult for ordinary kingdoms to complete, but it is not too difficult for Enel. His strength is not bad at the level of a lieutenant general, and that's because his combat skills are too scumbag to lower him. In terms of the destructive power of light on terrain, he is not much worse than Tiki when he fought with Ace. He intends to develop business, and the periphery is obviously not suitable for building a port. Only the central highlands are the best. But in this way, the supply of food will become a problem, and many people rely on the unique terrain to fish for survival. And ocean fishing is too dangerous in the New World. Not all citizens can do it. Enel intends to develop business and needs labor, just enough for those who have lost their means of earning a living. But this number is too much. They can't provide so many jobs, and it becomes a factor of instability. Of course Enel couldn't think of such a detailed place. After he told Dauber about his plan, the latter analyzed it. Now there is a justifiable reason for a rebellion to let Enel deal with a group of people and reduce the pressure on the land. How could he be so soft? At this time, people's hearts are unstable, and it is good to use iron and blood to shock them. Along the way, you can also harvest a wave of vitality. He will not slaughter civilians arbitrarily for no reason, but those who are disobedient are mischievous people, and they will die if they die. He didn't like everyone in Verslow. At the time when Wenris was forced to leave, Aenir wrote a note on everyone's head. Although the people were all bewitched by Bartholom, and things had passed for so long, they had already changed a generation, but Enel didn't care about that. Grace sighed dejectedly. She didn't have much bargaining chips after being a prisoner of the Order. She seemed to have made up her mind and said, "I can recognize you as Lord and serve you all my life." Enel looked at her serious expression, looked her up and down, and said, "You are the only thing that interests me now is your body. If you don't promise to let my family go, even if I die, I won't let you succeed." Grace seemed to commit suicide directly if Enel wanted to use force. "Oh, is that so?" Enel nodded. Over the railing, Enel reached out to her chest. And then right through her heart. Grace looked at the palm inserted into her body in disbelief, her pupils dilated. "Don't you mean interested in my body?" Did he? Enel would not put an enemy's daughter by his side. It's not that he hasn't seen beautiful women, and he hasn't been so thirsty that he can't walk when he sees a woman. He also doesn't believe that his charisma is high enough to make others let go of their hatred and fall in love with him. Put a ticking time bomb by your side, what a brain-dead way. "Actually all I want is a corpse," Enel added. "Well, that's fine. He's interested in Grace's body, that's because there's a lot of vitality in her body. How to absorb life force without killing it?" At first, Enel thought that his absorption efficiency of vitality was the most pitiful. Later, as his strength became stronger and the quality of life improved, he discovered that the transformation of vitality was the most pitiful. Converting from low-level vitality to high-level vitality, the waste is less efficient than the unfortunate absorption. It is increased by geometric multiples. Killing hundreds of thousands of talents is about the same as killing a lieutenant general. It's not that the life force in a lieutenant general's body can be compared with hundreds of thousands of people, but the loss during the compression process is too great. That's why Enel pays special attention to those who are strong. Although Grace is not very strong, she can stand up to 1,000 or 2 ordinary people. Of course Enel wouldn't let it go. As the darkness engulfed her corpse, life force poured into Enel's body, and he had the urge to moan with relief. "This feels cool." Sure enough, this use is correct. If you want another cool feeling, you should just find an ordinary woman with good looks. Like Grace, Enel still prefers to absorb their vitality. Many prisoners are detained in the Verslow cell, and behind the prosperity of the Central Highlands is a hotbed of nourishment for darkness. Enel emptied the entire cell, which was better than nothing, and the rest of the gains were not as much as what Grace brought him alone. Chapter 231 Action. The insurrection in Verslow was quickly suppressed. The countermeasures have absolutely no technical content, that is, Dauber leads the way, and Enel does it. After killing 1,000 miles of blood, the whole Verslow is filled with the smell of blood and terror. Murder and death go hand in hand, panic and fear fill people's hearts. Those who had joined forces to oust Wenris more than 2 decades ago also realized that Enel was different from his father. He is an executioner, a tyrant, a bloodthirsty devil. There was no surrender, no forgiveness, all were dead, not even Enel, who had lost the power to resist. All over the country, people cursed Enel, saying that he had ascended to the throne on the foot of the corpse. It's not quite accurate. Because the bones are all turned to powder in the dark. They are not convinced, they are unwilling to admit such a tyrant. However, they can only talk about it in their hearts or when there is no one around. Aenir's iron blood and ruthlessness have made them terrified. Among them, Dauber was the one who touched the most. He led the way and knew best what Enel had done these days. Every time I think about it, I can't help trembling all over. He originally thought that even if Enel was strong, his strength was limited. If he gathered the guards of the entire palace, he still had a chance of winning. But Enel's performance over the past few days has completely subverted his concept. The turbulent dark wave of Pengbai, the black smoke rising into the sky, is the power that can destroy everyone together, like a godlike might. Dauber estimated that even if he gathered the power of the entire kingdom, he could only surrender under the power of Enel. Under such terrifying strength, he can only offer his highest loyalty while prostrate. He still had a lot of thought. People go to high places, water flows to the ground. The nobles who have always been like this have never lacked a heart to climb up the ranks of power. He is going to unite a group of forces, and then compete for more right to speak in front of Enel, and get the price of negotiating with him. So that you don't need to completely obey Enel's orders. But under this overwhelming force, he saw his place very well. There is nothing to think about, just do things well, and hold on to this backer. All resistance is in vain. It has been nearly a week, and Wu Laoxing has also obtained accurate information, and Haley Island has also sent people to visit. Enel's foundation is indeed relatively clean, at least on a king, that's not a problem at all. As long as it's not the kind of restless guy who tries his best to oppose the world government. Is Enel safe? No, he is also a martial artist, the kind who is afraid that the world will not be in chaos. He didn't fight against the navy and the world government in a high-profile manner, just because his strength was not enough. He never took the initiative to challenge things. However, from his past experience, the 5 old stars believe that he is still the kind of person who is relatively lawful and obedient to the system. After all, he still abides by the rules of the power game on the surface. In the past, he intervened in the war between the two countries as a mercenary, and he was also named in the team he helped. As for why intervene in the war? Obviously, he is accumulating his own contacts, and with the support of the rest of the royal family, his recapture of the throne will be more justifiable. The 5 old stars do not know the specific ability of Enel, the incredible power that absorbs vitality to strengthen himself. Considering it with traditional thinking, I got a somewhat biased answer. Regarding the change of a royal family, the 5 old stars also called the telephones of the participating countries of the world government to ask their opinions. Although the 5 of them have already made a decision, in this matter, they should also listen to the thoughts of the kings to show their respect. Surface work still needs to be done. Although the 5 old stars have the apex of power, they can't do it their own way in peacetime, and the following ideas should also be taken care of. Otherwise, there would be no need for the World Conference to be held. Then let's decide. The 5 old stars with curly hair put an end to this turmoil. New World, a government law enforcement ship. CP9 and Commander Spandam gathered together. Sir, we've basically ruled out Enel Viserys Lefwart. He knows our intelligence, maybe it's something else. There's no need to waste time on him. It's not that easy to deal with. Gabra said. Shut up, I'm the chief, don't doubt my judgment. It's better to kill by mistake than to pass it off. Even if there is only a trace of suspicion, it must be thoroughly investigated. Spandam said with a fist. Strange cat, it's all your guesswork, so I have to run to this new world so far. Gabra shouted at Lu Qi. Evil dog, I was only speculating on the only information at the time, and I used my brain more when I encountered things. Don't just think about solving it with muscles. What did you say? The owl opened the zipper on its mouth, crackling. Gabra is in love, so he doesn't want to run so far. They were going to date. It's a pity that it got mixed up by the task. Hey owl, how did you know? Gabra looked shocked. Everyone in the entire Judiciary Island knows it, just slap. What's the matter? Gabra covered her head. Because I said it, Owl said bluntly. Damn it, you bastard, Gabra growled at the owl. Okay, stop arguing, and adjust your state to the peak. It's the most important thing to catch the culprit, Spandam said. Because Tom the Murloc is dead, the officer is worried about being punished, so he wants to make up for it quickly. The owl directly explained Spandam's psychology. Oughta and talk about your boss casually. Shut up, Spandam was furious. It's a man who has to take responsibility. Responsibility you can't escape, you have to take on everything bravely. Quan Zuo shook his head in a strange posture. The Navy is here. Kaku looked at the Navy slowly approaching them. They used the life card to determine the position to ensure that the two sides converged. How did you do it? How could the Navy only send one warship? They don't give me face too much. Damn it. Those bastards dare to look down on me and treat me so perfunctory, I must sue them. Spandam was very angry. He thought that with the order from above, the Navy could dispatch 2 lieutenant generals and 2 warships. The Navy really didn't take him seriously, and if it wasn't for the higher order, they wouldn't go to Lispandam at all. However, when the warship slowly approached, the pupils of everyone in CP9 shrank, looking at the tall figure standing at the front of the warship, with an unbelievable look on their faces. Chapter 232 Carp Out. Spandam's eyesight doesn't seem to be very good. It doesn't matter how many warships come, the key is who is on the warship. In this world of high martial arts, it is not an illusion that one person is the enemy of the country. But Spandam, already basking in his perfunctory anger at being perfunctory by the Navy, was cursing fiercely there. Damn the Navy, why don't you give me face like that? And the scumbags under him actually killed an important prisoner like Tom the Fishman. If it was a normal situation, the owl would have to complain about him at this time. Tom was actually shot a few times by Spandam and ordered the medics not to treat him, and he bled to death. But the owl at this time was completely shocked. Even Lu Chi, who had always had a cold face, showed a surprised look, and then smiled evilly. How could such a big man be disturbed? Hey, is it true? The Navy would actually dispatch him. Gabra had a look of awe on his face. What an incredible person. Does the government attach so much importance to this operation? Hero, Carp. Cold sweat broke down on Kaku's face. Then they glanced at Spandam. Does this guy really have such a big face? Can persuade the Navy to dispatch the strongest combat power. Seeing the resentful look on Spandam's face, he obviously didn't know who it was. Shaking his head, he rejected the idea. Chapapa sir, don't speak ill of the Navy, they are really saving face this time. Owl reminded. What did you say? Just sent a warship, and it's to save my face. Spandam said sharply. At this time, the warship had already pulled aside, and Spandam looked forward, just in time to see Garp's eyes. The two look at each other. Scare tilde. He was taken aback by the look on Carp's face. Hey, who is this old man? Where do I seem to have seen this face? Spandam struggled to find the corresponding person in his mind. Lu Chi glanced at him, and his dissatisfaction with him became heavier. His boss was so ignorant that he felt that the face of the spy agency had been thrown away. After reminiscing for a while, Spandam finally remembered who the opposite was. Hero Carp. His face was startled. Firstly Yishi, this time the action was stable. Then he looked sad again. Too bad, there are such powerful people in the Navy, so what should we do? All the credit will be taken away. For him, credit is the most important thing, not catching someone is secondary. If he catches someone but doesn't get credit, Spandam would rather anal run away. Cough cough, Spandam tidied up his clothes and changed into a very serious expression, somewhat like the commander of the CP agency. Lu Chi felt that if he had always been like this, even if it was just an appearance, as long as he acted as a mascot and didn't blindly command, then he would agree a little bit. But he knew that Spandam was pretending. Spandam looked at Carp's businesslike appearance and said, "We CP9 are in charge of this matter, and you are just assisting us, so when I don't ask you to take action, you just need to watch." For the credit, he even dared to say a few words to Garp. His position is not a lieutenant general, and if it is a general, he will probably put on a flattering face now. "Don't worry, all the credit goes to you," Carp said boldly. "Oh Tilda, thank you so much." Spandam's eyes lit up and he said instantly. "Then I felt that it seemed inappropriate for me to say so. I coughed twice, pretended to be very calm, and said, 'Then you can do whatever you want.' Grandpa, don't waste time." "I can't wait." Dolores' face was grim, her eyes were burning with anger. Okay, let's go now." Garp looked at Dolores with a flash of distress. He knew how hard she had worked in the past 6 years. Exercise yourself day and night. After officially becoming a Navy, he rushed to the forefront every time he fought against pirates. There were scars left on her body, but her smooth skin had countless ravines. The hatred in her heart made her a ghost-like existence. She is a vengeful ghost. The usual Dolores is also a girl who likes to go shopping, laugh, and mischievously snatch his senbei. But when it comes to pirates, she will be full of killing intent. Sinful pirates. Drive innocent people to a dead end and pour their blood for your freedom. Carp's eyes flashed coldly. "This time, you must be sent to the underwater prison. Black Coffin, Enel." The warship sailed in the direction of Verslow. Spandam also wanted to say that he was the commander of the operation, and told the Navy not to act without authorization. But when he thought about it, Garp agreed to give him all the credit, so he swallowed the words he put into his mouth. Enel stretched, he got up from the bed, and it was already 3 poles in the sun. He is still waiting for the response of the 5 old stars, and there is nothing to do for the time being. So I lived a life of eating and sleeping and eating, teasing the cat, and occasionally exercising the use of the dark ability. Carter and Roy walked hand in hand and traveled more than half of Verslow. Roy bought a lot of fashion magazines and let the maids in the palace wear them to her. It buys lingerie shows, bikinis, lace, cutouts, and translucent. In short, how to be sexy, how to wear charming. The maids blushed, but did not dare to obey. Some of the younger ones were in tears. What a shame. Carter is now the second in command of Verslow, and they can't afford it. Can only endure. Roy and Carter are basically inseparable. Roy's will is Carter's will. Enel didn't know the behavior of these two, otherwise he would have greatly praised them for being gentlemen. Carter watched with interest as the maids stripped to nothing, then put on sexy underwear. It said it was boring. Do all human books teach this? It used to hear Enel say that books are an important carrier of human power and knowledge. At first, it thought it was a very powerful thing, but why did it feel useless at all? Is it that it has not served the real purpose of the book? Carter took out a can of fish and thought. The smell of fish can help it solve the problem. Meow Row dear, what are you studying? It's so boring, it's dinner time, let's go have a big meal. Carter finally couldn't sit still. Roy glanced at the still high sun and rolled his eyes. It's only been an hour since lunch. I'll talk about it after I finish my research. I heard that it's according to the book. Females can gain enormous power that males can't resist. Roy said solemnly, holding the book, like a scholar. Maybe we should find someone to teach us to read, maybe those words are the key. Carter's face showed a solemn look. Well, it's very possible. Roy nodded. Chapter 323 Plan failed. The azure sea was turning waves, and occasionally huge waves surged. It was not blown up by the wind, but the traces of large fish or sea beasts swimming past. The warship and the justice ship sailed towards Verslow. In order to show his dominance of the operation, Spandam deliberately made the justice ship overrun the warship. Dolores wiped the machete in her hand with a white cloth. Unlike ordinary samurai swords, this sword has a large arc, almost in a semicircle. Carp came over and patted her on the shoulder, and he could feel Dolores' shoulders shaking. Before they saw Verslow, Enel knew that someone was coming. Although his sense of sight is not very useful in battle, in terms of reconnaissance, it can almost be compared to Milo's ultra-wide area heart network. Enel's development direction is not like a human warrior, but more like an evolving beast, a super predator. Wild beasts in nature generally do not fight with other wild beasts. Their battle is to hunt weaker animals. That's safer for them. They will retreat when they encounter stronger enemies. That's what Enel's style is, and his abilities fit that style. Long-distance search range, wings that can support high-speed flight, and an intuitive sense of danger. 1 grand prize, 1 lieutenant general, 2 major generals. Enel sensed the person. Garp is the strength of the general, the strength of the lieutenant general Lucci, the strength of the major generals Kaku and Gabra, and the rest of the soldiers are ignored by him. It should be the Navy, but this lineup seems to be a bad guy. The 5 old stars have yet to tell him the answer. The appointment may be a little more solemn, but in any case, it is enough to send a lieutenant general. What the hell is a general? Do you still need to send a general to authorize the Chiwahai that has been finalized? Then I'm afraid it's not an appointment, but a crusade. The situation seems to be different from what I expected. Carter, Roy, the situation has changed, hurry to the beach. Enel spread his wings and charged towards the sky. Passed by Carter and Roy on the way, reminding them. He doesn't know who it is, although everyone's vitality is different. Enel has the ability to identify his identity through the surprising difference in vitality. But you have to see it once before you can recognize it. He didn't have the confidence to face the general on the shore, and he didn't dare to fight with him. But he has the ability to attack from a distance recently, so he intends to go over and say hello. If he encounters it on the sea, as long as he doesn't take the initiative to close the distance, the general will have nothing to do with him. Kizaru's speed is indeed fast, but he can't kill Enel in seconds. As for Akainu and Aokiji, Enel can stay far away and will not give them a chance to get closer. Enel also wanted to see how far his own strength was compared to the general. So he didn't take the initiative to avoid it this time, but went up to it. He also wants to confirm what their intentions are. War or peace? Come on. Garp stared solemnly at the direction Aenir was flying from. Huh. The black figure stopped above the judicial ship, and the dark smoke slowly rose. Yo, isn't this Lucci? Enel first greeted Rob Lucci, who was standing on the deck. But most of his attention was on the warship, where the enemy was this time. You actually dare to throw yourself into the trap and take the initiative to approach. Are you looking for a dead end? Lucci said lightly. Pirates, Black Coffin, I kneel. You can't escape, hurry up and capture me. Obediently accept the punishment of justice. Spandam shouted at I kneel. Ah, where's the idiot? What's your look? You're so ugly. Wearing a mask, lilac hair, and standing between CP9, it's self-evident who the answer is. What? How dare you say that the handsome Uncle Ben is ugly? Spandam scowled. So, your mission is to arrest me. Didn't the 5 old stars ask you to tell me anything? Enel asked. Of course, isn't it a matter of course to arrest criminals? I will definitely torture you and let you spit out all your secrets. Spandam laughed wildly, as if he had already seen his victory after returning home. Scenario. So, this is the answer you gave. World government. Enel's expression darkened, his eyes glowing with scarlet rays of light. The anger in my heart was burning, and my blood was gushing out. His plans seemed to be in vain. The answer given by the world government surprised Enel. He didn't know which link went wrong. Logically speaking, this is unlikely. Enel is very angry. Since there is absolutely no possibility of cooperation, let's be completely opposed. He was already planning to slaughter several naval bases after this incident. Since you don't want me to develop peacefully, then I won't make it easier for you. As for the front, he wondered if he could kill these people. Killing the admiral sounds incredible, but it's not impossible. If it was Kyabu or Akainu, he might have a chance. If he meets a general on land, he only has points for running. If he is alone, he only has points for running. However, here is the vast ocean. Kizaru and Akainu are both capable, and if they fall into the sea, they will be doomed. On the other hand, Anil has the ability to breathe underwater, and Carter supports him. Even if Anil faced the general, he was confident that he would not be defeated anytime soon. As long as you entangle the general yourself, then let Carter take the opportunity to launch an attack from the sea and destroy the ship. Then the opponent can only use the moon step to fight with himself in the air. If Enel managed to drag the general into the sea at the cost of serious injury, he would have won. Carter has the strength not to lose to Enel on the shore, and will only be stronger in the sea. But Carter couldn't fight in the air, he could only watch. And the people in the same group still have CP9, which is troublesome. Enel may be under siege. And even if there is only one general, it is not so easy to drag into the water. Just as Enel was thinking, heavy footsteps sounded. Da da da. Garp came out of the cabin. Enel took the initiative to step back, worried that he would attack. The opposite is a general, no matter how careful you are. It's been a long time. I finally found you, kid. Garp said to Enel. I didn't expect it to be you, Lieutenant General Garp. Seeing who was coming, Enel didn't think about it anymore. Garp has no weaknesses. It is estimated that Carter can be hanged in the sea. Winning is impossible, throw a few ranged attacks and run. Hey, why do you seem to be obsessed with me? I'm really flattered. Enel felt that Garp was deeply hostile to himself. Have you offended him? Chapter 234. Ha ha ha, I've been looking for you for 6 years now. Be mentally prepared. Garp squeezed his fist and rattled. Damn, is this guy sick? What the hell am I doing? How could this mad dog be attracted? Enel was puzzled. Suffer to death. A shadow passed over Garp and charged towards Enel with a moon step. Come back, Sally, danger. Garp yelled, rushing out too. Enel looked at the woman who was rushing in doubt, but didn't do anything. Dolores couldn't hold back her impulse. The man who has been searching for 6 years is right in front of you. She can't wait to hit the ground. Sen Leng's blade cut a graceful arc in the air, slashing towards Enel's neck with a sharp edge. He didn't dodge or evade. Enel was very sensitive to danger. Before the knife slashed, he knew that it wouldn't do him any harm. Successful. 6 years of hard work paid off at this moment, and she could hardly contain her excitement. The body is shaking, the arms are shaking, the heart is shaking. Father's stern face flashed in his mind, the room with the scent of books, the warm and elegant courtyard, the corpses on the ground, the blood stained the lawn, and the raging fire turned everything into ashes. And all these disasters are just because of a mistake made by him when he was young and ignorant. Finally, revenge. She and Enel looked at each other, and there was not a trace of panic in those calm eyes like well water, instead there was a hint of mockery. She was inexplicably uneasy. Knife. Finally fell. It landed on Enel's neck. But it's hard to move forward. This is not the feeling of slashing a human body, but more like slashing steel. How can it be? Dolores, joy disappeared, replaced by consternation and astonishment. Enel raised her left hand and slapped her face. Dolores flew backwards, the iron mask shattered, revealing a wrinkled ugly face. It's weak and ugly, Enel said. His words pierced Dolores' heart like a needle. Sally. Garp took the Dolores flying towards him and returned to the warship. Colonel Dolores. The Navy on the ship gathered around. Dolores lay in Garp's arms, staring blankly at the sky. There was blood spilling from the corners of the mouth. Enel's casual slap is not weak, but it is not enough to beat a colonel from the Navy headquarters to stand up. Body, it hurts. Heart, more pain. Why, 6 years is my 6 years of hard work still so powerless in front of him? She shed tears unwillingly. It seems to be back to the day 6 years ago. She is still a little girl who can only cry. I'm not reconciled. Damn it. Why? You've worked hard, and it's not bad. However, Black Coffin is not the kind of opponent who can be defeated by hard work alone. He is a monster. You are getting stronger, and he is getting stronger too. Garp comforted. Dolores, talent is limited, not to mention the current Enel, even the Enel 6 years ago. I am afraid she will be difficult to surpass in her life. Don't worry, Grandpa promised you that he will catch that guy. Since a man made a promise, he will definitely do it, trust me. Then leave it to me. Garp put Dolores on the ground on deck, then take off your military coat. He's ready to go all out. Okay, grandfather, when did Carp have a granddaughter? Even if I have butterfly wings, I will not fan out a daughter for the dragon. Is it the granddaughter? Granddaughter. How do you feel that Carp is obsessed with himself because of that female navy? Enel seems to have discovered the truth of the problem. That's your granddaughter, Carp. Enel smiled. So I will never let you go. To do such a thing to my lovely granddaughter. For the sake of my promise and justice, I will never let you run away again. What did I do to her? I'm still a pure child. I have never done anything like the beginning and the end. Enel retorted, you are a ****** slander, I want to complain. Have you forgotten Beihai, Nikolai? Garp reminded. Enel looked up to the sky to recall, tilted his head, who is it? That's right, how could a vicious pirate like you remember the innocent people who were murdered by him? It's useless to talk about it. Carp rushed towards Enel, and Dolores, who was faster than him, was happier. Enel's pupils shrank, and then he flapped his wings and flew into the sky. Melee combat with Carp is not a good idea. His fighting ability is absolutely second to none. Enel tried to distance himself, but Garp chased after him. Black bullets. Bang bang bang. Countless small black balls carrying domineering bullets flew towards Garp. Tips. Garp blocked his arms in front of him. The speed dropped a little. Taking advantage of this gap, Enel stretched out his index finger. A black sphere condensed at the fingertips, and then turned into a fierce ray and shot away. Dragon breath flash. Garp stopped his forward footwork, and then waved his hand to disperse the dark ray. Enel opened up a lot of distance. Garp's use of moon steps is indeed more flexible than Enel's flight, but his straight-line flight speed is not as fast as him. Coupled with the interference of Enel's long-range attack, Garp couldn't get close to Enel for a while. The two chased and fled in the air for a few laps, but there was no substantial progress. Asshole, don't run. A fool will melee you. Enel rolled his eyes and pointed his middle finger at Garp. What a naval hero. He's being played around in circles, and even a little thief can't handle it. Spandam looked at the two people in the air and said disdainfully. Boom. A dragon's breath swept past Garp, and released a shocking explosion not far from the law enforcement ship that Spandam was on. Feeling the rushing heat, the gust of wind and the waves, Spandam was stunned. Enel dodged and never confronted Garp, and Garp was helpless for a while. Lucci saw Garp's helplessness and was about to take action to intercept Enel together, but heard Spandam shouting, Lucci, don't go anywhere, your mission is to protect me. He was already frightened by the sound of the two fighting in the air, and a sense of unease lingered in his heart. The attack just now would definitely kill him if he was hit. Spandam shuddered. So he decided to implement the policy of hiding firmly behind Lucci. Carp is a very persistent guy, as can be seen from the fact that he can set a record of eating more than 10,000 donuts in a row. Enel suspected that he might actually run after him for 10 days and a half. Chapter 235 Mage Enel. Knowing the reason for Garp's hostility to him, Enel didn't try to resolve it, just looking at him knew it was impossible. Enel didn't know who Dolores was, and he couldn't remember what happened 6 years ago. I don't know how many people have died under his hands, and the names of small characters are not qualified for him to remember. However, since he dares to trouble himself, he must pay the price. Enel needs a place to vent his anger at his failed plan, and the people sent by the government in front of him are undoubtedly the best ones to vent. If the gap between him and Carp is big enough, then he will leave without saying a word. But he was able to defend himself in front of Garp now, and he could fight back a few times. Lieutenant General Garp, you are indeed strong, but you're not the only one here. Enel showed a malicious smile. Huh. Dragon Breath Flash. He directly launched his most conventional long-range strike. Garp did not dare to dodge, because if dodged, the attack would fall on the warship, and Dolores could not block such a powerful attack at all. One punch shattered the dragon's breath flash. The darkness was a bit thicker, and at this time Enel was completely shrouded in darkness, making it difficult to see. Dense scales cover his whole body, and his tail vertebrae continue to elongate, turning into a dragon's tail. The palms turned into claws, and the bone spurs pierced the skin of the forehead. The eyes were scarlet, the teeth sharpened, and the body swelled. The darkness also expanded. Roar. A huge roar resounded through the heavens and the earth, the waves were surging, and the wind and clouds were surging. The sky dimmed a little. The sun seemed to be covered with a gray mist. Strange monster. Spandam was so frightened by the sudden huge roar that he sat down on the ground. Cold sweat dripped from Lu Chi's forehead. He felt that Enel was much stronger than the last time he fought with him. Power is of course, those 15 devil fruits are not white flowers. Hey, strange cat, did you fight this kind of thing last time? Gabra looked terrified. Animal type, Karp's expression became solemn. He could feel the terrifying aura coming from the darkness, and the feeling that Enel brought him was a little stronger. Even he is not fully sure of winning. Of course, this is Karp's conservative judgment based on breath alone. In fact, he was able to rub Enel to the ground. If I remember correctly, this guy is only 15 years old, right? Continue to let it grow, and I am afraid that in the future, it will become a maritime hegemon that can shake the world government. Karp's heart grew heavier. Monsters emerge one after another. How long can the fragile peace of the sea last? The physique in Enel's humanoid state is mid-Tomadrange. In the form of a dragon without a tail, the physique is in the upper reaches of the Lieutenant General, and the form of a half-dragon with a tail is the top Lieutenant General. After the complete dragon transformation, Enel has reached the level of a general in terms of the strength of his physique and aura. However, if you dare to fight against the general, you will be directly beaten. The technique is far from bad, and Enel's fighting skills are barely what they used to be. There is a gulf-like gap with the battle-hardened generals. Karp didn't know Enel's weakness in skills, so he could only stare at the darkness solemnly. No reckless attack. At this time, if Karp was alone, Enel would not waste time with him, but there was a warship below, which made the other party constrained. Enel wanted to try it out to see if it was possible to kill Garp. That extremely rich vitality has long made him salivate. Devouring Garp's vitality can be worth millions of ordinary people. In order to protect the warship, Garp had to choose hard against Enel's attack. Then the gap between the two sides in terms of skills does not exist. Next, it is a confrontation between pure strength and physical strength. Feeling the powerful life form slowly approaching the warship from the deep sea, Enel smiled. There is a play. Dragon breath flash burst. The dragon's claws stretched forward, and endless dark beams shot out from his 5 fingers. Like a rattling machine gun. Compared to Black Bullet, Dragon's Breath Flash's attack speed is relatively slow, and it is easy to dodge if it is far away. However, this trick is very effective when the opponent cannot move at will. A strip of dark beams attacked Garp with domineering. No, some of the attacks were aimed at the warship behind him. Either way, he couldn't let it go. Missing one will cause a fatal blow to the navy behind. Garp's terrifying strength once again showed a kick. He shaves while using the moon step. Moving quickly in the air, he actually blocked all the attacks of Enel that covered the entire warship. The speed of the moon step in a long-distance straight flight is indeed not as fast as that of Enel, but in such a short-distance movement, it is much more flexible than Enel. There was a hint of coolness behind Enel. With such a fast speed, I am afraid that once Garp is approached, he can only be a sandbag. If they engage in melee combat, it may be difficult to even escape. Damn it. Garp was also extremely aggrieved at this time. He just didn't show the skill of using moonwalking and shaving at the same time, just to get close to Enel unexpectedly. But now it is exposed to protect the warship. Then the possibility of trying to catch Enel is even smaller. Garp is also very helpless. Enel is really strong, but it is nothing to him. The key is that this thing is too slippery, and it quickly retreats as soon as it gets close, not giving him a chance to spread it out at all. At this moment, Enel is transformed into a professional mage, and throwing magic attacks from a distance to prevent the enemy from getting close. The possibility of killing Garp is very small, but with the opportunity in front of him, Enel will not give up trying. There is no strategy, and he has no tricks that can deal effective damage to Garp. Enel's only solution is to waste. Just consume it. It takes more stamina to stay in the air using the moon step than Enel's wings to fly, and Enel's stamina recovers very quickly. Come, hurt each other. Let's see who can't stand it first. The darkness became a little thicker, and the entire sky was plunged into pitch blackness. Endless darkness spreads across the sky, and at the very center is a dark sphere that seems to attract even souls, like a sun. A lot of domineering gathered, and Garp felt a little threatened. This threat Garp is not enough to look down on. His eyes are very vicious, and in just such a short confrontation, he has already judged that Enel's fighting skills are not very good. Although not afraid of that small sense of threat, but this is a good opportunity to get close to Enel. Immediately, he rushed towards him. But still a step too late. Clap clap. As if the eggshell was broken, the sphere suddenly changed its shape and transformed into a giant dragon with dark elements and domineering condensed. Black bright flame. Enel, who used this move, took a few breaths, and the darkness in the sky seemed to be a little thinner. The abstract dragon composed of dark elements charged towards Garp with unparalleled might, as if it was the only one left in the whole world. What happened next caught Enel stunned. I saw Garp slammed with a punch, and the dark dragon dissipated like this. As if it never happened. That monstrous attack was broken up by Garp's bland punch. Chapter 236 Sync. Even Enel had expected from the beginning that this move would not be successful, but the corners of his eyes twitched when Haewongyun was simply smashed by Garp with a straight punch. I rely on, is flat of the kingly way. After the complete dragon transformation, Enel's physical fitness is indeed at the level of a general, and he is not weak at all in a head-to-head battle. But compared to Garp, who stands at the pinnacle of human beings, it is still a lot worse. After all, the general level is only a vague division of strength according to the level of military rank. Even at the same level as general, the gap in strength is not small. Enel quickly pulled away. Seeing him being so cautious, Garp's face darkened. This one can't be beat at all. Black brilliant flame. Enel is still using this attack, which is his strongest attack so far. He wanted to drain Garp's stamina as quickly as possible. The trick just now was a draw. It looks simple, but the consumption is not small. Tricks of the eagle, is that all you need? Garp shouted angrily. Is that right? That's enough, you can't hit me anyway, can you? Enel's smiling face made Garp's anger rise. The dark dragon suddenly divided into 3 black smoke birds in the air, one rushed towards Garp, the other towards the law enforcement ship, and the other towards the warship. Brilliant flame black smoke bird. Damn it! Garp was startled, but was blocked for a moment by the black bird in front of him. For a moment, his defense was not enough, and he could only watch the domineering black bird slam into the warship. Lanjiao. 3 low voices sounded at the same time. Lu Chi kicked away the black bird that crashed into the law enforcement ship, and the other black bird was blocked by Kaku and Gabra together. Huang Yan's attack speed is not fast, but it is flexible and can change direction after hitting it. The original full version of Haewongyun could not be stopped by Lu Chi, but the weakened black smoke bird was still within the range they could resist. Lieutenant General Garp, leave the task of guarding the ship to us, you can fight with confidence. Kaku said. Oh I am so troublesome for you, it's really reliable. Then he looked at Enel, be conscious, boy. CP9 I'm not alone. Anil's mouth curled into a smile. Looking at Anil's smile, Garp suddenly had a bad premonition. In the dark deep sea, a cloud of pink light illuminates the surroundings. Render this dark abyss with magnificent colors. Countless jellyfish roam, crystal clear and pink. Carter and Anil set off at the same time. It had already arrived here, and it has been lurking in the deep sea. It has been watching the movement above with the color of knowledge. Garp had discovered Carter's existence from the very beginning, but he thought it was an ordinary sea beast, so he didn't care much. Now Garp is away from the ship in pursuit of Anil, so Carter decided to take the opportunity to attack. Anil and Carter, this person and cat will bring out the indecent flow to the fullest. Lucci suddenly felt a burst of heart palpitations. What's going on? He looked around warily. Look for possible hazards. Heaven, no. Front, back, left, right, nothing. So the danger comes from. Watch out under the sea. Lucci shouted. Zung. A huge slash cut the law enforcement ship in half. Lucci made a decisive decision and jumped into the air with a moonstep while carrying Spandam, who was paralyzed on the deck by the black smoke bird just now. Carter sprang out of the sea and came to the warship, holding a 6-meter-long broadsword in his hand. Cat, Kaku said suspiciously. Wow, ha 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 ha, so fat. Gabriel laughed. Carter glanced at him dissatisfiedly. He wasn't fat, he just had longer hair. Chapapa, a very strong cat, is here. The owl jumped in the air. Khalifa's cheeks flushed. Well, so cute. She was attracted by Carter. Hey strange cat, there are your kind here. Gabra was still laughing. Will you become so fat in the future? Ha 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 ha. Evil dog, use your brain before you laugh, that cat is not easy to match. Lucci's expression remained unchanged. Indeed. Gabra stopped smiling, staring at Carter solemnly. Dolores recognized Carter at a glance, the fuse that sparked their dispute with Enel and his gang at the time. I hate cats the most. She looked at Carter angrily. Meow. Carter roared mournfully. It recognizes Dolores. The taste will not change. This is the bastard who used the drug fish to stun it and then lock it up. The enemy is particularly jealous when they meet. Carter, destroy the ship now, cried Enel. Little devil, don't look around. Garp used his long-range trick again, throwing senbei. Although it did not cause any damage, Anil was still beaten, and it hurt a lot. Carter's cat ears moved and looked at the deck. Don't think about it. Dolores rushed up. The semicircular blade light made her blade glow with a pale white halo. Appeared. Colonel Dolores Half-Moon Slash. Come on, cut down the cat that doesn't know how to live or die. The surrounding navies shouted cheers. The power of the machete was applied to Carter without compromise. And not a single hair was shaved off. This is a little embarrassing. Dolores had a dark face. How could her enemies be the ones she couldn't break through? Have you all practiced turtle shells? Carter is also excellent in defense. Apart from Garp, only Lucci can fight him. However, the first master of CP9 was ordered by Spandam to ignore everything, as long as he was protected. Such a great force was dragged like this and could not be shot. Finger gun, 10-finger gun. Land feet. Seeing that Carter was about to destroy the hull, Kaku and Gabra did not hesitate to attack it with all their might. Catball defensive martial arts. Carter's armor was hardened, along with his broadsword. Although this move consumes domineering, it doesn't want to waste time, and destroying the ship is the first priority at this time. Kaku's feet were bounced off. Gabra's finger gun sank deep into Carter's fat, but it couldn't pierce it. What? It was too late when he wanted to back away. Just like the full-fed version of Luffy's belly holding the Snickers sword, Carter held Gabra's hands in the same way. Wait, listen to my explanation. I'm actually a cat. Gabra began to talk nonsense when he saw that the situation was not good. Meow, you are, but I'm not. If you want to have a relationship, you have to figure out the situation. Carter is actually a sea beast. Carter punched Gabra in the forehead. Then he raised his broadsword and slashed the warship in half. Boom! A smoky bird crossed Garp's defenses and hit the warship. The shocking explosion sounded, and Kaku took the unconscious Gabra away from the slowly sinking warship. Chapter 237 Carp's Crisis. Dolores. Carp yelled, finally calling the right name in a moment of crisis. He gave up chasing Enel and rushed towards the warship. Dragon breath flash. Garp turned his back to himself, and Enel would be insane if he didn't attack at such a good opportunity. The fierce rays shot out, and there was a blue in the dark. Land feet. 2 huge wind blades flew towards the dark rays. Sixtile Enel has seen Lucci use it many times, but compared to Garp's attack, it is simply the difference between Yingxing and Haoyu. The huge wind blade dozens of meters long smashed the dragon breath flash with a destructive force, and then hit Enel's chest. Boom! He was knocked back a few meters by the huge force. When Carter saw Carp's angry face, he charged at him aggressively and plunged into the sea. PFF'd. The plump body splashed with a splash of water and disappeared into the sea. Don't forget to give Dolores a tail before leaving. Cat Maelstrom. It is in the sea, with its hands clasped, making a Tai Chi posture. A whirlpool appeared on the sea surface. Garp picked up the seriously injured Dolores and quickly left the place. The water swirls into the deep ocean, where it connects to an ocean current. The wreckage of the ship and the people on board were swept in by the vortex, and sink into the dark seabed with the ocean current. It's troublesome now. Lucci carried Spandam and looked solemnly at the calming sea. Hum hum hum, Enel's gloomy laughter echoed between the sea and the sky. Like the whispers of the devil. Bastard. Garp's eyes widened, bloodshot in the whites. He stared at Enel with a grim look. How dare you give all my soldiers? Don't look at me with such terrifying eyes. Once you take up arms and set foot on this sea, you must have the consciousness of death. You can come to crusade me, and I can kill you, and you can live and laugh at the end. It is victory. Enel flapped his wings and opened the distance from Capra. The other party was obviously furious, and at this time there was no good fruit to eat. Let's go, Carter. Let's go back to Verslow first, cried Enel, then turned and flew away. Under the sea, Carter followed. Garp wanted to chase, but Enel's mobility was too strong. He couldn't catch up at all, and there was a seriously injured Dolores in his arms. What to do next? Ask the headquarters for help. Kaku asked. Their ships were destroyed, without food and fresh water, and even their pointers were destroyed in battle and lost their way. In the vast sea, it is deadly. It shouldn't be far from Verslow. Let's go with it. We must not spare that guy. Carp said. The sea is always a little inconvenient, and it is difficult to borrow strength. If it was on land, the point Enel had kept would have jumped past him with a burst. Once on land, he is confident to deal with Enel. Garp and the others had lost their bearings, and they took it for granted that the direction Enel was flying was Verslow. Sensing that Garp was following, the corners of Enel's mouth twitched slightly. This is right in his arms. The direction Enel and Carter left was not Verslow. He understood that Garp wasn't going to die so easily. In the original book, Aokiji and Akainu fought for 10 days to decide the winner. In the face of opponents of the same strength, they will definitely go all out. In other words, the general's physical strength is enough to maintain their high-intensity activities for more than 10 days. Enel's attack is nothing to Garp. It is impossible to use this to kill Garp without more than 20 days. However, he himself did not have the physical strength to attack with all his strength for 20 days. Jen and Carp will be exhausted, and they may be exhausted first. So he has to buy himself half time, but not give Carp a chance to recover. At first, he just wanted to throw a few long-range attacks and leave. Garp, who has no weaknesses, has almost no possibility of killing. The appearance of Dolores, Garp's granddaughter, made him see the possibility of success. So Enel decided to destroy their ships, cut off their supplies, and lure them away from the island. In the boundless sea, human beings cannot survive, even if he is Carp. But Anil can rely on his special ability. With Carter's assistance, there is no problem in staying ashore all his life. Enel wants to use the power of nature to kill Garp. If Garp was alone, he wouldn't die even that way. If he is alone, he can survive for a long time even in the sea. The vitality of this monster cannot be measured by common sense. The problem was that he was carrying a wounded Dolores. In order to keep Dolores alive, Garp had to keep using the moonstep, or the water would make her injuries worse. This intensified his consumption. 3 days later. On the endless sea, the original well-dressed CP9s were like a group of refugees. Lucci carried the half-dead Spandam and stayed in the air with a moonstep. Gabra was already awake. Because the two of them are animal-type capable people, and their strength is relatively strong, they can still support it. And Khalifa, Nugget, and Owl had long since lost the strength to use the moonstep, and were swimming in the sea. Sorry for dragging you down, Kaku. Bruno, who was weak in the water, put him on Kaku's shoulders. He is the ability of the door fruit. He will have no strength in the water, but he does not have enough physical strength like Lucci and Gabra, so he can only become a burden to the team. It's okay, don't worry about it, Kaku said. Dolores, who was carried by Garp, was pale and breathless. The scars on her body have scabbed over, but the trauma to her internal organs is not so easy to heal. When Carter left the warship, he gave her a tail, which not only cut a slit in her abdomen, but also injured her internal organs with the huge impact. Garp, the veteran who has participated in countless battles, also has a trace of fatigue on his face at this moment. He was worried about Dolores' injury, and he had to always be alert to the sneak attacks of Enel and Carter. In the past 3 days, Enel kept harassing them, and released the breath of his top predator, scaring away fish and sea beasts. Let them have no time for rest and no food at all. And Enel himself, if he had nothing to do, hit Garp with a few dragon breath flashes from a distance, then left when he was tired, sat on Carter to rest, and ate and drank a lot. There are also snacks such as watermelon and ice cream. He believed that if this consumption continued, Carp would be dragged down one day sooner or later. Every cell in his body trembled when he thought of the extremely rich vitality. Chapter 238 Stop, We Are Allies. Although it seemed possible to leapfrog Garp, there was a problem that troubled him, that is, Dolores couldn't hold on anymore. Even with a cumbersome Garp, it was extremely difficult for Enel to kill him. If she died, Garp would have no burden, and the current Enel would never be able to kill Garp without restraint. Hey Tilda, I'm so angry. It's really not my ability to do this kind of technical work. Enel sighed. Carter rolled his eyes. Aren't you going to give them something to eat and drink? Enel thought for a moment and nodded. Good idea. There seems to be something ahead. The sharp-eared Gabra saw 2 very small wooden barrels. I picked it up, and there was a small amount of food and water in it. With 2 slips of paper. In crooked words, to the seriously injured Navy girl, and, to the starved CP agency commander, were written. What does he mean? Carp looked at the things in front of him, puzzled. Lucci had some guesses, but he didn't say it, because it didn't help to say it, it was a conspiracy. According to how much Garp cared about Dolores, no one dared to touch her things. And Spandam is the commander of CP9, and his food will not be robbed. Lucci has already guessed that the purpose of Enel's move may be to ensure the survival of the burden, so as to increase their consumption. But they couldn't watch Spandam starve to death, so they could only leave this small amount of food and water to Spandam and Dolores according to Enel's wishes. Dolores woke up and said with difficulty, Grandpa, leave me alone. If you go on like this, you will be in danger too. How could I have left my granddaughter? Don't worry, it's nothing to me, Carp said with a bitter smile. Anyway, the food was delivered, and Anya delivered too. Spandam is still a bit useful, he can contain Lucci. With such a pig-like teammate, the members of CP9 are very uncomfortable. But the training they received made them follow orders from their superiors. After eating 2 cakes, Spandam finally stopped looking sick. Damn, how did I get to this point? Hurry up and ask for help. Quickly think of a way, or I will die. Spandam roared as soon as he had the strength. Lucci replied coldly, we have lost our direction, and we can't determine our current position at all. Moreover, we have no way to contact them, and the phone bugs have sunk to the bottom of the sea with the warship. Damn it, how can my life end in the end? I haven't stood on the pinnacle of power, I haven't become a hero in this world, how can I die here? Huh. A ray flew past his nose. Enemy attack. He's here again. Kaku quickly jumped out of the sea. Bruno is the key target of Neil's attack, and the priority is still higher than Cap. He used the fruit power to get Garp close to Enel. If it weren't for the latter's quick response, it would have overturned. Bastard, I'm a high-ranking official of the world government. You are declaring war on the world government by taking action against me. Spandam shouted at Neil. Alright, you're really annoying. How many times have you said this? From the moment you came to attack me, we've been completely on opposite sides. Enel pierced his ears. Boom blah blah blah. The voice of the phone bug rang suddenly. Huh, everyone looked for fame. Huh, haven't all our phone bugs been lost? Gabra said suspiciously. Chapapa, it must be the commander who forgot again. Owl said the truth. Spandam pulled a small phone bug out of his arms. Muttering, so I brought another one. I forgot it accidentally. Hey, this is Spandam, leave everything aside for now. I'm being hunted down, send someone to rescue me, he said in an imperative tone. The phone bug was silent for a while, then said, where are you? Spandam was stupid, he heard the voice on the other end of the phone, it was the 5 old stars. He regretted his tone just now, and quickly changed his expression and tone. Wow, I carried out my mission very seriously, but I was attacked by thugs, and now I am being chased by that bastard in the black coffin. He cried, trying to be pitiful for himself and cruel for Enel. The mission has failed, and he is looking for a reason to mitigate the punishment. The 5 old stars handed over the matter of Pluto to Spandam. After Lucky encountered Enel on Judiciary Island, they received Spandam's request for help, so they gave the Navy an order to cooperate with him. After several days of review, they finally passed Enel's review. After confirming the seat of the King of Verslow, a country that joined the world government of Enel, he realized that Spandam had already taken a crusade against Enel. So I quickly called Spandam and wanted to inform him of the cancellation. But it seems a little late. The curly-haired 5 old stars said slowly, the Black Coffin's wanted order has been cancelled. He has now been appointed as the King of Verslow, and he also serves as the King under the 7 seas. All military operations against him immediately stop. Spandam's heart is bitter. Now it's not a question of whether they want to stop, but whether Enel wants to stop. Hey, wrong. My own people, we are our own people. Spandam shouted to Enel. Enel also heard what the 5 old stars said. What is this called? I finally had the opportunity to kill Garp, and the plan was halfway through, but at this time I found that my application for Chiwahai was actually passed. Between Garp's vitality and the steady development of the next decade, Enel chose the latter. Besides, whether Garp can get rid of it or not is still a matter of choice. He has not yet matched the strength of the generals, and it is dangerous to die against the world government. But he was a little unwilling to retreat like this. Not only Enel was unwilling, but Garp was also angry and clenched his fists. Very dissatisfied with the decision of the world government. Such a vicious pirate, who caused countless tragedies and killings, was able to sit on the throne of the king. What will happen to the people of that country? Did they have a future? Can you still fulfill your promise to Dolores? But Garp didn't attack on the spot either. First, it was the decision of the world government, and he knew he couldn't stop it. Second, Dolores has fallen into a coma again. If she continues to entangle with Enel, she will definitely die. Both Enel and Garp ultimately compromised. Hey, give me the phone bug, I want to talk to the 5 old stars. Enel said to Spandam. Spandam asked the 5 old stars and, after getting permission, threw the phone bug to Enel. "Hey, I'm Enel. My application has been approved, right?" "That's right, Verslow, under your rule, is recognized as a member of the world government's allied countries, enjoying the rights and obligations of all the joining countries. Since you were once a pirate, we are at the same time. You are approved to join the Chihuahai under the king, and we will send someone to send the appointment letter." In order to quickly stabilize the world situation and let the four emperors, the navy, and the Chihuahai triangle form, after they confirmed that Enel's conditions were suitable, they immediately put him on the throne. "But you don't seem to be in control of your subordinates. Not long ago, CP9 and Vice Admiral Karp attacked me. It caused me a lot of damage." Enel's tone was a little gloomy. The 5 old stars were silent and said after a while, "We will give them the punishment they deserve." They didn't mean Spandam to clean up the mess, they just threw the whole pot on his head. "Your mistakes caused me to fail to deal with the rebellion in a timely manner and dealt a major blow to the economy of Verslow. I ask to be exempted from paying 5 years of heavenly gold, or the country will collapse. A collapsed country, I am on the throne. Also pointless." Enel faintly revealed the meaning of refusal. He is testing how important it is for the world government to become Shichibukai. Impossible, 3 years at most. Considering that Enel became Shichibukai's role in promoting the stability of the world, at the same time, this matter really needs to be explained to him. The 5 old stars discussed it and decided to give some compensation as appropriate. "Yes," Enel agreed directly. "Being able to be exempted from the 3-year heavenly gold is already very good." Chapter 239 G1 Base. A chandelier hangs from the ceiling, which is very bright. But compared to the entire hall, this light can only illuminate a small half. The other half is shrouded in shadow. There were many lamps, but Enel was too lazy to move, so he just turned on one. Enel sat on the throne, looking at the devil fruit in his hand, and was in a particularly happy mood. Devil fruit is a good thing, and even better, it came from Garp's hands. Although he accepted the agreement of the world government that day and could no longer do anything to Garp and the others, even if Enel did not do anything, their situation would be very difficult. Garp makes a deal with Enel in order to keep Dolores alive. Exchange a devil fruit for Enel's rescue. Enel, of course, readily agreed, and would love to see Garp with a tow bottle by his side. He doesn't care about the hatred of the weak at all, and there are too many people who hate him. When he was on the battlefield, his hands were stained with blood. The strength of oneself is the foundation. Instead of guarding against others coming to seek revenge, it is better to make oneself constantly stronger, so powerful that all the enemies will despair. Carter was jealous of the moon steps in CP9, so Enel bought the sextile practice method from Spandam with 300 million Baileys. At first, Spandam refused righteously, but was frightened by the momentum released by Enel, and immediately changed his mind and agreed. Dauber came in and reported to him the recent changes in the domestic situation. After the rebel army was swept away by Enel, it basically disappeared. The political situation began to stabilize. "Stop, you don't have to tell me these little things. I'm going to leave soon, and Verslow will be handed over to you." Enel felt a big head when he heard this. Dauber's eyes twitched. Is this a trivial matter? Looking at Enel's expression, maybe he really thinks these things are insignificant. The more Enel doesn't care, the happier he is. Of course, the bigger the power, the better. "Bring the 2 pirates I caught, I'm going to meet my friends in Marijoya." Yes, Dauber also knew where his power came from. He was very respectful to Enel, and everything was done properly. Enel is going to meet the 5 old stars in Marijoa, sign a formal document, and at the same time send the slave promise to Saint Musgarad. The ship he was on was a merchant ship arranged by Dauber. Originally, Dauber wanted to send a special ship and led soldiers to escort him, but Enel refused. Since Enel wants to open up a subsea trade route, he also needs to understand the normal method of crossing the Red Soil continent. He decided to take a field trip. It is said that he still has to pass through the naval base, and Enel is still interested in the strength of the naval branch. It's never a bad thing to know more. Soon, the merchant ship soon sailed into the naval base under the Red Soil continent, the G1 branch. This is a very important branch of the Navy. Guards the entrance to the New World, below Mary Joa. The leader of the merchant ship was a rather shrewd mustache called Corey. It's not the first time he's been here. Familiar with the various inspection procedures. Also said hello to one of the Navy corporals. After a few chats, they looked familiar. Enel saw him sneak a stack of Baileys into the corporal's hand. The corporal smiled more eagerly, and with a flick of his wrist, he took the money without revealing a trace. The two walked shoulder to shoulder as if they were brothers. After the corporal left, Enel asked the mustache, "Is it troublesome for you to cross the Red Earth continent when you are doing business?" Corey didn't know exactly who Enel was. When Dauber's butler came to him, he just said that a big man was going to Mary Joa in his boat. Anyone who can be called a big man by the powerful Dauber family must be a noble with a high status. Corey did not dare to neglect, and replied cautiously, "Yes, it is very troublesome. Not only do you have to go through a lot of security checks, but the tax is also high. After passing the security check, you have to move the goods to the giant snail. It will take several days. Go to the Red Earth continent." Giant snail, Enel said suspiciously. It's the kind of superlarge snail that is as huge as a warship and can climb up the Red Soil continent. If you want to go to the Red Soil continent, you can only rely on this method. Enel suddenly remembered that the war castle of the Vinsmoke family also seemed to be made of this kind of snail. The transportation fee is also very high, and most of the money we earn from doing business is spent in this process. At first, Corey just said a few words out of politeness, and then began to complain. "You have to manage the Navy in the middle, these guys are blood-sucking worms." Corey's sense of the Navy is obviously not very good. Although the Navy is not yet ready to smuggle the goods directly, it is still possible to detain the goods for a few days on the grounds of inspection. Time is money, and if the cargo is detained by the Navy, the loss can be huge. In fact, the upper echelons of the Navy also knew about this, but they never took care of it. There is no way to completely ban this kind of thing. As long as it is not too blatant, everything is easy to say in the dark. After learning about the situation and knowing that the giant snail was still a few hours away, Enel planned to go shopping. Corey reminded, "Don't go too far, this is a naval base, and there are many places you can't go to." Enel waved his hand, indicating that he understood. He sensed the base, and there were two vice admirals sitting in the base, which was already a strong fighting force. After all, the position of G1 is very important, second only to Marin Fodor. It is the throat of the New World. Enel was completely unconscious and wandered around the naval base. Came near the arsenal, it was quickly noticed by three young soldiers. "Stop, what are you doing?" They saw Enel looking around, so they came to ask. "Huh, say me," Enel pointed to himself. "That's right, it's you. Who are you?" One of the soldiers rolled his eyes and asked, "Is there anyone else here besides you?" I came here with the caravan, and I got lost while I still had time." "Where is this place?" Enel said, looking at the warehouse in the distance. That's the truth, he did get lost. But he remembered Corey's vitality, and he could go back in a straight line. "Don't ask about it, it involves military secrets. Leave now, or we will doubt your purpose," said one of the soldiers solemnly. "Oh well, how did you get to the port?" Enel was just wandering around bored, he wasn't really interested in naval weapons or anything. He will only pay attention to the strong here. "If you have any questions, just ask me. A man like you can't watch what an ordinary soldier wants to do." A deep voice came from behind him. Chapter 240 Arrive at Mary Joa. "Huh, here's some interesting guy." Enel looked back. A man with gray hair in a navy coat and a helmet with a two-headed dragon engraved on his head, with a ferocious expression, was standing not far from him. Place. He had a cigarette in his mouth, and the hair behind him formed an arm. Holding 8 knives, like a spider. Vice Admiral Ghost Spider, with a ruthless personality, doesn't care even if he hurts his subordinates during the mission. Along with Akainu, he is a hawk in the Navy. Ghost Spider Lieutenant General. The three Navy hurriedly gave a military salute. They have also heard of the Ghost Spider's fierce name. Even if they are both in the Navy, they are still very afraid of this ruthless boss. You guys get out of here, this man is not something you can handle. Yes. They hurried away. At the same time, he was guessing the identity of Enel. How can the lieutenant be treated with such seriousness? Vice Admiral Ghost Spider, do you have anything to do with me? Enel asked. You appear in my jurisdiction, of course you want to come and see. I also heard about the fact that you put Mr. Garp at a disadvantage. Boring sympathy. Iron-blooded justice does not need mercy. That Navy, it's just disgracing us. Ghost Spider snorted coldly, obviously very dissatisfied with Dolores. Jagged justice. Enel did not understand, he only knew the justice of the victor. You are very dissatisfied with Garp's failure, and want to regain the majesty of your navy. Black smoke poured out of Enel's body and spread. No, I'm just here to ask how you got here in a merchant ship. Without the instructions above, we wouldn't take a shot at a king. You're no longer a pirate. Enel shrugged and put away the darkness. I'm just bored. The encounter with the Ghost Spider was just a small episode, and both sides were still friendly. They're not the kind of people who would fight straight out of a spur of the moment. Enel sat on the giant snail, and the Ghost Spider did not want such a dangerous person to wander within the scope of his responsibility. Let a snail set off a few hours early. The snail climbed slowly along the towering mountain wall, especially slowly because the house on its back was full of goods. Enel looked down from the window. The G1 fortress was getting smaller and smaller. Won't this snail fall? It would be fun if it fell. Ahahaha, Enel said. Please don't say such things. Lord Enel, if it really falls, it will be a big problem. Cory also knew Enel's identity, from respectful to flattering. Well, don't worry about it. At the same time, the 5 old stars also received a report from the Ghost Spider. Is he here already? Said the blonde 5 old stars. He is really an eclectic man. Sure enough, he has a heavy pirate style on his body. The bald-headed man in a kimono has sharp eyes. Most kings are prudent and pay attention to etiquette and face, and only a carefree guy like Enel will hitch a ride on a merchant ship to attend an important meeting. His application for the post of Chiwahai has already shown that he is not a quiet guy, and we need to be vigilant. As long as the necessary personnel are sent to monitor his actions, in any case, he is the king of the allied countries, and at the same time he takes over the position of Chiwahai. In the New World, it can play a buffer role between the 4 emperors and the navy. Curly hair 5 Lao Xing crossed his hands and fingers. Oh, my friend, you are finally here. As soon as Enel stepped on Marijoa, she heard the voice of Saint Garrod, the muse. Long time no see, my dear friend. Ha, I heard that you were here, so I came here to meet you. I'm really exhausted after walking such a long distance. Saint Muse Garrod held a chain and sat on an orange big yellow cat on its back. The other end of the chain is connected to a collar. It was worn around the neck of a girl with purple hair. She stared blankly and just followed blankly. 4 bodyguards surrounded him. Enel thought that your feet didn't even touch the ground, so embarrassed to say that you are tired. And what happened to your mount? An orange cat. Of course, you can't say that, pretending to be very moved and saying, this is really my honor. Noticing Enel's eyes, Saint Muse Garrod said proudly, look at my cat, it's not worse than yours. I bought this at a huge price. That's pretty good. Enel was speechless, wondering how Saint Muse Garrod liked to travel on a cat. And the orange cat under his butt, which is incomparable to Carter at all. Nothing but fat. By the way, you brought me the gift. Saint Muse Garrod looked at the slave beside him and said. Of course, how could I forget? Enel motioned for Cory to bring out the pirates he caught. These are 2 big men who are more than 3 meters tall, with thick muscles like the roots of an old tree. A bounty of 56 million Baileys for Nichols and a bounty for 58 million Baileys for Zalifo. Anal did not put collars on them, but tied them with ropes. Cory is worried about these two pirates. After all, such a high bounty is already terrifying for ordinary people. So he tied them round and round with rope, like a zongzi. Nichols and Zarif had a rag in their mouths, and they cursed all the way, so Anal gagged them. The guard next to St. Muse Garrett turned over the bounty and then confirmed the identities of the two. Anal's eyes twitched as he watched their movements. Who would carry a stack of bounties with them? This shows that he is waiting for him to send the pirates. While I'm very satisfied with this gift, now my collection is enriched again. By the way, my dear friend, do you know a slave named Stella? Anal asked. Stella. St. Muse Garrett frowned and thought for a while. I haven't heard of it before, I'll ask you about it later. Thanks a lot, I'm willing to exchange it with a better quality slave. Are there murlocs? St. Muse Garrett's eyes lit up. This is a bit difficult. I may cooperate with them recently, but I am willing to exchange the bounty of 100 million pirate slaves. The current Tezzolo is not famous, but if the butterfly effect caused by Anal is not very big, then he will still grow into that financial giant. And Stella is a good bargaining chip. Aren't there murlocs, those nasty guys? St. Muse Garrett still held a grudge for what happened on the Murloc Island. I don't know what method that stinky fish called Otami used to convince most of the parents to sign the agreement that humans and murlocs live in peace. Has Otoji succeeded? Listening to the rendering power of all things is really scary. But anyway, it's good for my plan. Anal thought silently in his heart.